Chapter 77. By the afternoon, more than half of the guests had left. The official birthday banquet would begin in the evening. The MO family did not continue to receive guests from outside. Those who stayed in the guest hall were the immediate family members of the MO family or relatives and friends who were very close to them in terms of social status. Grandfather MO, I didn't have a chance to speak earlier. This is the gift our G family has prepared for you. G Min Gran stood by the table and took out an exquisite antique box. When she said this, she intentionally glanced at Jean Wan. Jean Wan sensed her gaze but did not react. When the relatives at the table saw that someone had started this again, all kinds of special gifts were placed on the table one by one. This time, they were no longer casually stacked on the gift racks. Instead, they took the initiative to open the gifts and show them to the old man, as if they were presenting treasures. Ji Min Gran saw that the time was right. She abruptly opened her mouth. "Big sister, why haven't I seen your birthday gift? Quickly take it out for Grandfather M.O. to see. I dare to believe that your birthday gift will definitely be very special." As she spoke, she winked at Jean Wan. She smiled brightly, appearing innocent. It is indeed special. After all, it wasn't easy to obtain. Jean Wan took out the red sandalwood box that she could not tell what was inside and placed it on the table. Seeing that the size of the box was the same as the chessboard that Ji Min Gran had previously given her, Ji Mingran's eyes revealed a hint of excitement. When Ji Hongwen saw the box that Jean Wan took out, his brows imperceptibly furrowed. "Grandfather, this is a surprise for you. I believe you will definitely like it." Jean Wan placed the box in front of Elder Mo's eyes, her smile sincere. Elder Mo was smiling. Before he could speak, Ji Min Gran suddenly stared at the red sandalwood box. She spoke with a shocked expression. "It can't be, big sister. This is the birthday gift you want to give to Grandfather Mo?" Jean Wan was unruffled. "What is it?" Ji Min Gran maintained her shocked expression. "Looking at the size of the box, what is inside? Could it be our family's early Tang chessboard? A few days ago, Dad lost his most beloved antique. I didn't expect you to secretly take it away. Sis, I know you want to please Grandpa M.O., but you can't steal Dad's most treasured antique to present Buddha with borrowed flowers." At this moment, Ji Hongwen could barely sit still. "My little daughter has a loose tongue. Elder M.O., please don't take offense. Wan Wan would definitely not do such a thing. As for this jade chessboard," Shun Haru suddenly spoke up from the side. "I was just saying that a few days ago, I felt that something was missing from the antique shelf in your study. I didn't expect that Jean Wan had actually secretly taken it away." As she said that, Shun Haru shook her head and sighed. Although Wan Wan wanted to give something good to Elder M.O. with good intentions, after all, a married daughter is like spilled water. When she returned to her maternal family, she didn't even inform them before taking away such a valuable antique. Although this can't be considered stealing, it is indeed against the rules. "Shut up." Because the M.O. family was present, Ji Hongwen did not fly into a rage. Instead, he kicked Shun Haru harshly under the table, warning her not to speak carelessly. Shun Haru did not make a sound, but her gaze subtly shifted toward Jean Wan. She did not believe that Jean Wan would have the ability to clear her name with the evidence and witnesses present. After all, neither her maternal family nor in-laws' family could prove her innocence. Although this matter was not big, it was not small either. In the eyes of the two families, even if Jean Wan's tongue was rotten, it would be useless. Jean Wan maintained her calm smile. "What chessboard?" "Min Gran and Annie Shun. Why can't I understand a single word you're saying?" It was truly an unexpected gain. This matter was actually not caused by Ji Min Gran alone. She was still wondering how the chessboard could be taken out so easily. It seemed like Shun Haru had helped her from behind the scenes. It was truly a flawless show. If it was the Jean Wan from her previous life who did not have her guard up against Ji Min Gran, she would most likely be wronged to death. Even if Elder M.O. suppressed this matter and helped her smooth things over, there would still be scolding behind her back. She would be mocked and ridiculed by her friends and family for the rest of her life. "Big sister, don't play dumb. The chessboard is right inside. You can't possibly take back the gift that has already been delivered to Grandfather M.O., Ji Mingran raised her voice. Jin Wan glanced at her, an undetectable cold smile hidden in her eyes. Mingran, why are your words so strange today? Big sister, I'm doing this for your own good. Stop acting. You stole this jade chessboard from the early Tang dynasty and gifted it to Grandfather Imo. Even if Dad doesn't hold it against you now, this chessboard cannot be used as a birthday gift. Ji Mingran spoke while sighing. This chessboard belonged to a eunuch who caused chaos in the court during the early Tang dynasty. That eunuch was later sentenced to death by 1,000 cuts because of his conspiracy. After his death, his corpse was buried by his trusted aides. At the same time, this chessboard was buried with him. This was an item buried with him. Even if it is an expensive antique that is worth collecting, this kind of thing definitely cannot be used as a birthday gift. Ji Mingran's voice became softer and softer. It was as though she did not intend to say all this, but her voice was just loud enough for everyone to hear. Gifting this kind of thing, big sister, what are your intentions? Mingran. Ji Hongwen had originally planned to admit to her mistake after his initial shock. However, he did not expect Ji Mingran to actually say such a thing out loud. He immediately wanted to slap her to death. Ji Mingran had already spoken and could not take it back. She looked at Ji Wan fearlessly. However, she did not see any signs of shock, panic, or even fear on Ji Wan's face. She had finally found an opportunity to cause Ji Wan to lose her footing in the Mo family. She could not let it go so easily. All the relatives and friends present had different gazes. However, because Elder Mo maintained a cold expression and did not speak, no one dared to casually slander her. However, in such a matter, even if the elder wanted to protect Ji Wan, he most likely would not be able to do so, right? On the elder's 80th birthday, she gifted a Tang dynasty eunuch as a burial item. Furthermore, it was a eunuch who died a horrible death by 1,000 cuts. This was simply unreasonable. Mo Jingshen sat by the side with an indifferent expression. Only when the show was almost over did he coldly sneer. Ji Mingran saw that Mo Jingshen did not immediately speak up to protect Ji Wan. She guessed that he also felt that Ji Wan had gone overboard with this matter. She then said, "Brother Jingshen, I didn't mean to say such words in such a situation. Compared to my big sister's face, Grandfather Mo's health is more important. Gifting such an item is really not good. That's why Mo Jingshen's eyes carried a slight smile. He did not look at Ji Mingran, but calmly glanced at the unopened red sandalwood gift box in front of Elder Mo. Chapter 78. Ji Mingran's expression stiffened. Because of Mo Jingshen's nonchalant words, all her efforts were immediately put on the table. She bit her tongue, turning to Shun Haru for help. However, Shun Haru did not look at her, only sitting by Ji Hongwen's side as though this matter did not concern her. Back then, they had agreed not to drag her into this. Ji Mingran's chest felt stifled, but she could only endure it. She stared at the gift box. After all, with this thing here, Ji Wan would not be able to escape responsibility. From what I see, we should hurry and open the gift box to take a look. Ji Mingran insisted. Ji Wan smiled, calmly reaching out. However, the moment her hand touched the gift box, she suddenly received Elder Mo's gaze. The elder could tell that Ji Wan had fallen for his trap. To prevent her from being put on the spot, he used his gaze to warn her not to open the gift box. If it really was that thing, not only would he feel unlucky, but many of the famous people present were also superstitious. If it really was what Ji Mingran said, Ji Wan really would not be able to find a way out. Ji Wan gave the elder a reassuring smile. Her hand gently pressed against the box, and the expensive red sandalwood gift box was instantly opened. The moment she saw the item placed neatly in the center, Ji Mingran, who had just stood up due to her agitation, immediately trembled. How is this possible? She had clearly handed it to Ji Wan earlier, but it was not. Seeing the item in the box, Ji Hongwen, who was by the side, immediately released a sigh of relief. However, he immediately furrowed his brows, coldly glancing at the petrified Ji Mingran. This brat was courting death. She had really thrown away the G family's face. "Grandfather, this is just a farce. I'll let you watch a joke." Jinwan smiled leisurely. "When Jingshun and I went to buy a gift, Jingshun said that you have a preference for ancient chess. This ancient chess manual was left behind by the famous Gu Shiyin during the late Tang dynasty. It has been passed down from generation to generation and was carefully treasured by the imperial palaces. Even now, it is still well preserved. I hope you will like it." Elder Mo was stunned for a moment, as though he could not believe it. When he returned to his senses, he happily reached out to receive it. He opened it and flipped through it, happily nodding his head. "You, this child, are really thoughtful. This is indeed something that I've always wanted to collect, but could not obtain. I never thought that I would be able to obtain it before I was born." Mo Jingshun raised his hand and gently pressed down, gesturing for Jinwan, who had been standing by the table, to sit down. When he spoke, his voice was the same as before. "Nwanwan specially requested the chess record for you. It took her a lot of effort." The old master nodded happily. He couldn't take his eyes off the chess record in his hand. He kept looking at it carefully page by page. Obviously, he treasured it very much. Jinwan quietly held Mo Jingshun's hand under the table, whispering, "You clearly want it. How can you say that I beg for it?" Mo Jingshun's voice was low but gentle and clear. "My body is yours. The things I win, of course, are also yours." Jinwan, it was as if he had been flirted with again. Sitting across the table, Jimingran's face had already turned pale. She was flustered and wanted to say that Jinwan was clearly holding the chessboard, but now she was being stared at by all sorts of gazes. Her father was also giving her a warning look. She raised her eyes to look at Jinwan. For a moment, she did not know how to smooth things over. What should she do now? The people seated were all very astute. Everyone could tell that she had purposely dragged Jinwan into the water earlier. How could she explain herself in a reasonable manner? It seemed like no explanation would make sense, Mingran. Jinwan's voice suddenly came. It carried a hint of coldness, and she had called out to her in front of everyone. Ji Mingran abruptly raised her eyes. Right now, she was both afraid and hateful. The fear in her eyes could not be hidden. Jinwan's tone dragged out slowly, but it carried a hint of coldness that could not be ignored. "I'm afraid there must be some misunderstanding between us. This is also your first time at the Mo family home. Why don't you follow me to the backyard for a walk? Let's have a chat?" Ji Mingran's face paled. After so long, she already knew that Jinwan was no longer the same person who would allow herself to mess around. Aside from the Ji and Mo families, there were also many famous people present. She had really suffered a huge loss. Ji Mingran lowered her head and did not speak. However, she did not plan to follow her. Ji Hongwen angrily said, "Why aren't you leaving with your sister? Do you want to continue arguing in front of so many people? Your sister has already given you enough face." Elder Mo also abruptly said, "Indeed, I think there seems to be some misunderstanding between you sisters. This is the first time this old man has seen a younger sister frame her older sister in front of everyone. If you have anything to say, go to the back and speak." Ji Mingran's expression became even more flustered. Her eyes flickered, not daring to look at them or Jinwan. From the start, Jinwan did not plan to completely fall out with Ji Mingran so quickly. Firstly, she had not found a suitable opportunity. Secondly, she wanted to use this opportunity to clearly understand Ji Mingran's methods. However, right now, this opportunity was extremely suitable. Since Ji Mingran did not wish to have a good life, she could not blame her for being impolite. Ji Mingran followed Jinwan out of the banquet hall. Jinwan did not speak along the way. Ji Mingran followed behind, her heart secretly beating like a drum. When they reached a place in the Mo family's backyard where there were fewer people, Jinwan turned around. At the same time, Ji Mingran raised her head to stare at her. She seized the opportunity to speak first. "Sister, I'll be frank with you. Today's matter was indeed intentional. However, it was also because previously you pa." An extremely loud slap rang out. It was crisp and sudden, causing the helpers passing by to jump in fright. Ji Mingran was so shocked that she could not even maintain an expression. She did not dare to believe that Jin Wan had actually slapped her. What was even more unbelievable was that the person who slapped her was the Jin Wan who had always given in to her and doted on her since she was young. Ji Mingran raised her hand to cover her face. She was so shocked that the muscles on her face froze. After a long while, she screamed in disbelief, "Jin Wan, you actually slapped me, pa." Another clean and ruthless slap flew over, causing Ji Mingran's face to turn to the side. Jin Wan's icy voice carried a frosty coldness. "I slapped you. Shameless, shameless, and endlessly seeking death." Ji Mingran screamed in anger. Jin Wan. She had never been slapped by anyone in her entire life. However, she was actually slapped by Jin Wan. She was even slapped twice. Ji Mingran was so angry that her entire body was trembling. "Jin Wan, what I hate the most is your self-righteous arrogance. Why do you always have to stand on top of me? Why can you?" Jin Wan coldly smiled, raising her hand to slap her again. Ji Mingran did not expect there to be a third slap. She was slapped silly, and her entire face froze in place. Chapter 79. Because I'm your older sister. Because everything I've obtained is fair and above board. No matter how arrogant and conceited I was, I've never schemed against my own family or even thought about my own sister's husband. Ji Mingran. This is called being shameless. Jin Wan did not hesitate in the slightest. She did not give her any face. Ji Mingran was stunned. In the next moment, she was so angry that her entire body was trembling. She did not expect Jin Wan to know everything. So, everything she did, Jin Wan saw it all? She deliberately beat her at her own game? Was that why the tables had turned so suddenly today? Ji Mingran suddenly felt afraid. She held onto her reddened face and sobbed weakly. I didn't think much of it. I just couldn't stand the way you treated Brother Jingshun in the past. I feel that you've let him down and let him down. That's why all of a sudden, Ji Hongwen walked out. Clearly, he had heard their conversation earlier. Jin Wan saw him and expressionlessly walked to his side. "Dad, you handle this." Finishing her words, she walked out of the backyard without turning back. Ji Mingran turned back to see Ji Hongwen's heavy expression. She was so frightened that her face turned pale. "Dad." Ji Hongwen did not speak. The moment Jin Wan walked away with her back facing them, with a paw sound, he raised his hand and sent a slap toward Ji Mingran's face. Ji Mingran was caught off guard and was slapped to the ground. She raised her head, looking at the furious Ji Hongwen in fear. A chill of fear spread from her limbs and spread throughout her body. "What you said earlier, was it all true?" Ji Hongwen furrowed his brows. Ji Mingran looked at him, crying. "Dad, I really just felt that older sister isn't worthy of Brother Jingshun and felt unfair for him. I can explain what happened today. Stupid." Ji Hongwen's eyes were filled with anger. "How could I have a daughter like you? After so many years, I've seen many grudges between rich families, but I didn't expect my own daughter to do such a lowly thing." Ji Mingran looked at Ji Hongwen's expression, not daring to say a single word. Her entire face was pale to the point of being transparent. The guests at the banquet had already forgotten about the little episode just now, and the congratulatory words of birthday came one after another in the guest hall. Elder Mo responded with a smile and carefully placed the chess record that he had been holding in his hands like a treasure into the red sandalwood box. At the same time, he called for Mo Jingshun to sit by his side. The grandfather and grandson sat together. Mo Jingshun's smile remained mild. After all, Elder Mo had seen everything that had happened earlier. "Does that Ji Mingran have feelings for you?" Elder Mo spoke in a low voice that only Mo Jingshun could hear. "I understand the Ji family situation. Ji Hongwen is a good person, but these two daughters lost their mother a long time ago. Now the Ji family's second daughter is so hostile toward Jin Wan. In my opinion, you should let Jin Wan go home less in the future. When you're free, bring her here more often. This old man doesn't have any other abilities, but I do have the ability to protect my granddaughter-in-law. Mo Jingshun smiled. All right. Coincidentally, Jinwan returned at this moment. The moment she entered the guest hall, she saw Mo Jingshun sitting by grandfather Mo's side in a filial and considerate manner. His face carried a rare warmth and patience. Her heart trembled slightly. Mo Jingshun's tall figure lazily leaned against the back of grandfather Mo's chair. The lights in the guest hall shone through the antique decorations, illuminating half of the man's face. It was cold and noble, like the clear grass and trees on a foggy day. However, it seemed as though the sunlight had penetrated through it, adding a touch of warmth that was approachable and approachable. Jinwan accidentally fell into a trance. The people present were all elites of the upper class and important figures of various circles. They all had extraordinary statuses and unique auras. Everyone's presence could not be ignored. But even in such an occasion, Mo Jingshun was still the one who attracted the most attention. Regardless of whether it was his self-restraint or his every movement, he was always the center of attention. "G-Brat, you're back." Grandfather Mo saw her and raised his hand to beckon her over. "What are you standing there for? Come, sit by grandfather's side." Jinwan walked over. Originally, she wanted to go to the other side of grandfather Mo, but for some strange reason, she went to Mo Jingshun's side and sat by his side. Of course, she was not deliberately showing off her affection, but earlier, it was her instinct. Her feet did not listen to her, and she moved closer to his side. Grandfather Mo saw all of this and smiled in a good mood. Taking the opportunity when a rich madam by the side leaned over to casually chat with Jinwan, he softly said to Mo Jingshun, "Previously, you said that you're preparing for pregnancy. Is it true?" Mo Jingshun chuckled softly. "What do you think? TSK, what do you mean by I think? I can see that the G family's girl is sincere toward you. Since the relationship between husband and wife is harmonious, you should take this opportunity to nurse her body back to health and give birth to the child as soon as possible. This way, this old man will be busy coaxing the child and won't have the time to worry about other things." Jinwan vaguely heard grandfather Mo's words and turned her gaze over. However, the first thing she met was Mo Jingshun's gaze. Originally, she was slightly embarrassed by the topic of preparing for pregnancy. The moment she met Mo Jingshun's gaze, she saw his gaze that was as deep as the ocean. She felt that he really planned on agreeing to the elder just like that. The guests gradually dispersed. It was no longer early. Mo Jingshun was the eldest grandson of the Mo family. It was unavoidable that he drank a few cups of sake. Originally, he planned on driving home, but he decided against it. Grandfather Mo asked him to stay the night in the Mo family's old residence. After they got married, Jinwan had not stayed in the Mo family home. It was only today that she found out that Mo Jingshun rarely came back to stay, but here his room was cleaned every day. Although the Mo family's old residence was called an old residence, most of the buildings in the house were not old. Only the front three-story building with a simple front hall was somewhat old. However, the elder cherished the past and did not rebuild it. The few villas and pavilions at the back were all very beautiful. They were situated at the foot of the mountain range. It was said that the building closest to the mountain had a spring that was discovered several decades ago. However, outsiders were rarely allowed to soak in the hot spring. Only the Mo family had the right to do so. This place was situated at the foot of the mountain and had the fresh air. Furthermore, it was blessed with the peace and health that was hard to come by in the city center. In the middle of the house was a multi-story villa. The entire third floor belonged to Mo Jingshun. Chapter 80. In the dead of night. Jinwan could not find a hairdryer in the bathroom and came out with a towel wrapped around her hair. The moment she walked out, she saw that Mo Jingshun had just entered. He carried with him the chilly air of the autumn night and the fresh scent of the Mo family's old residence. Under the light, his expression was gentle. When he saw how she looked when she came out of the shower, his gaze deepened. By this time, all the guests had already left. There was no need for Mo Jingshun to continue staying in the guest hall. When her father and Annie Shun left, although their expressions were not as happy as the others, they still brought Ji Mingran into the car. At that time, Jinwan did not look at Ji Mingran's expression. From the corner of her eye, she could see that she was slightly disheveled. She did not even dare to greet her before entering the car and closing the door. Today, regarding the matter of grandfather's birthday gift, although I was not the one who suffered a loss, there were so many guests present. Earlier, when you sent them off, many of them must have mentioned this matter to you, right? Jinwan asked. Mo Jingshin lowered his head to glance at her. Today, the people who stayed behind all knew how to write the word propriety. Although they mentioned it earlier, once they stepped out of the Mo family's door, no one dared to say a single word to outsiders. Jinwan was startled. Did you say something to them when I wasn't around? Don't worry about them. I'll deal with it. Mo Jingshun was unperturbed. You did well today. You killed the chicken to warn the monkey. In the future, those who are secretly against you will not dare to do anything to you. Be Mrs. Mo in peace. I'll handle everything. Oh, then what did grandfather say? Him? Of course he'll side with you. Although grandfather is old, he sees things very clearly. That's good. I don't mind leaving a bad impression in other people's eyes. But with Ji Mingran's actions today, although she did not receive any benefits, it could be considered a small farce. No matter how you look at it, it won't be good. Mo Jingshin's gaze was dark as he watched her. Grandfather will never let you suffer a loss in the Mo family. Tonight, there will definitely be someone who won't be able to sleep, but that person will definitely not be you. Jinwan instantly felt as though she had eaten her fill. She pursed her lips. Regarding today's matter, my dad must be extremely angry. Both the palm of his hand and the back of his hand are meat. Both sides are his daughter. Mo Jingshin's voice was low and heavy, calm as usual. Do you think he didn't notice that Ji Mingran's actions weren't normal? It's just that he didn't want to say it out of respect for his daughter. In today's situation, he was also forced to this step by his second daughter. You didn't do anything wrong. Don't take it to heart. Oh. Jinwan raised her hand to hold up the towel that was about to fall off her head. She wiped her wet hair with the towel and paused for a moment before asking, "What about you? If I really fell for it today and lost all my face, what would you do?" Mo Jingshin lowered his gaze to look at the little woman who had just showered. Her face was still slightly damp, and he reached out to pinch her chin. You still have Shun Haru in front of you. Letting her off today is on account of the Shung family and the Ji family. But if she really wants to push you into an unbearable situation, I don't mind using her severed son to threaten her. Let's see if it's more important to be at odds with you or her son's life and future. The man's voice was low and mild, but Jinwan's heart was completely at ease. On the importance of having a good husband. Right now, she completely understood that Mo Jingshin would only do one thing, and that was to give Jinwan a sense of security that no one could replace. No matter what, he would definitely be able to help her solve any problem. Even if she was careless and fell for someone else's scheme, he would not give her a chance to lose. The next day, in order to merge her two small real estate companies into a large studio, Jinwan sorted out the financial and project information. She was so busy that she forgot to eat and sleep. It was already past 10 o'clock in the evening, but Mo Jingshin had yet to return. Jinwan stretched lazily and picked up her phone to check the time. She saw 2 missed calls from Xia Tian. She had been busy earlier and had a 2-hour video conference with the studio. She had switched her phone to silent mode. Jinwan dialed Xia Tian's number, and the call was quickly connected. Xia Tian's voice was ambiguous. Wan, did your husband tie you to bed? He's finally willing to let you take time to look at your phone? Jinwan pursed her lips. Mo Jingshin should be busy tonight. He hasn't returned yet. He's not home? Then why did you take so long to call? I thought you and Mo Jingshin would have sex every night, doing all kinds of positions. Jinwan turned to sit by the bed, picking up a pillow and hugging it in her arms. Can you stop thinking about such things? An unmarried man is even more ferocious than a married man like me. Xia Tian chuckled, sitting on the bed and taking a bite of watermelon. Jinwan had not had time to go to the hospital recently. She asked tentatively, recently, you've been so quiet. You haven't even called me a few times. Is someone accompanying you? Xiaotian stuffed a lot of watermelon into her mouth. Her tone was muffled. How did you know? Jinwan's heart sank. The man who knocked you earlier, is he chasing you? Xiaotian almost choked on the watermelon. She coughed several times before cursing hoarsely. What the heck? Do you know how to calculate? I haven't seen you for a few days, and you've become a half-immortal? Jinwan's expression turned cold. As expected, Xiaotian's half-concealed and slightly bashful tone was very familiar to her. Everything was as she had expected. It was just that she hadn't visited him for a period of time, but that bastard still managed to take advantage of her. The next morning, before 7 o'clock, Jinwan directly drove to the hospital. She had just stepped out of the elevator and had yet to reach the door when she saw Xiaotian being supported by a tall and thin man from the public bathroom. Xiaotian raised her eyes to see Jinwan. She was immediately shocked. Wanwan? Jinwan did not say a word. Her gaze coldly swept past the man's face. She pushed open the door and walked in. Only when Xiaotian was supported in and sat on the bed did the tall man turn to look at Jinwan. He reached out a hand to her and said politely, "You're the good friend Jinwan that Tian often talks about. Hello, nice to meet you. My name is Li Minjian. Jinwan appeared not to have heard him. She sat on the sofa by the side of the ward, expressionless. She was unprecedentedly cold. Chapter 81. Jinwan's aura was too cold today. She did not give him any face at all. Xiaotian sensibly allowed him to leave first. When only the two of them were left in the ward, Xiaotian leaned against the bed. Wanwan, your aura earlier was 8 meters. It was so cool. Jinwan's face was expressionless. What happened? Did you treat what I said earlier as a fart? Xiaotian clearly did not expect Jinwan to be angry to the point of scolding someone. Her expression was slightly embarrassed. I didn't forget. This surnamed Li has been chasing after me for many days. I never agreed. Why did he come to the hospital early this morning? A few days ago, he came to the hospital again because of my hospital fees. We casually chatted for a while, and then he often came to visit me. He is a gentleman, polite, and considerate. I don't know how to reject his good intentions, but I swear I don't have any feelings for him. After all, we haven't known each other for long. I can only say that I think he's not bad. So now you tacitly agree that he is chasing after you? Xiaotian acted as though she was a kindergarten student being lectured by the teacher. You can say that. After a long while, Xiaotian saw that Jinwan seemed to be really angry and said, "Don't be angry. We didn't go any further. It's just that he was going to fly to S-City this morning. Before he went to the airport, he first came to the hospital to see me. He was going to leave just now, but I suddenly wanted to go to the washroom, so he helped me there. But I swear he was waiting outside the washroom. There was absolutely no flirtatious or unnecessary contact between us." Seeing that Jinwan was expressionless, Xiaotian no longer joked around and became serious. We definitely won't develop to the stage you think we are. Believe me, only a fool would believe you. If it weren't for the fact that she could not speak about her rebirth, Jinwan really wanted to reveal the truth to Xiaotian and let her know how much she had fallen for this scum. She had been pregnant, miscarried, broken hearts, and sent to death. Each and every one of them was a bloody lesson. How's your leg? After a moment of silence, Jinwan changed the topic. Xiaotian was caught off guard by the sudden change of topic. She paused for a moment before replying. It's okay. If I hold a pair of crutches, I can walk 2 laps around the ward. However, my leg bone hasn't been completely reconnected yet, so I don't dare to stand directly on the ground for now. I'll go ask the doctor and see if he can be transferred to another hospital. Jinwan stood up to leave. Hearing this, Xiaotian raised her eyebrows. Transfer. Jinwan turned back and glanced at her. Even if the one surnamed Li was the one who injured you, you don't have to worry about the fees. From now on, you can cut off contact with your family. You don't want to go home now, but it's not like you're cutting off your relationship with your family. You have your car with you, and you can afford any expenses. If you're afraid of trouble, leave the transfer to me. Just stay away from that scum. Xia Tian held her forehead. You sound like my mother. Jinwan paused and said, I'm probably more worried than your mother right now. I even know a lot about that guy, surnamed Li. Do you want to hear it? Your tone is very mysterious. Quickly tell me, what's his situation? He's the owner of a bank. His family already has a fiancée, but he likes to pretend to be a warm gentleman outside. Every few months, he would pick up all kinds of innocent young ladies. Countless women have had abortions and broken hearts because of him. Xia Tian supported her chin with one hand as she sat on the bed. She nodded calmly. And as expected, he's a scum. So, do you want to be the mistress that he secretly dates outside behind his fiancée's back? Or do you want to be slapped in the face by the various mistresses and fives that he continues to date? Xia Tian rolled her eyes. I already said that I don't have any feelings for him. At the very least, I haven't reached the stage where I have feelings for him, and you've already killed it. Then immediately transfer to another hospital. Tell him to scram as far away as possible. If I want to transfer to another hospital, I have to get the doctor's signature, right? AI, Nwan, I was just about to ask you. Do you know my attending doctor? Jinwan paused. After a few seconds, she replied, Not very familiar. Not familiar? Io, that attending doctor of mine, has a poker face every day. I heard from nurses that his personality has always been so cold. At first, I didn't think it was a problem, as long as my leg injury could be healed quickly. But I realized that every time I mentioned your name in front of him, his gaze seemed to be able to freeze me to death in an instant. Jinwan shifted her gaze. Why did you mention my name in front of him? A good bestie. Usually, when I'm bored in the hospital, when I chat with the doctors and nurses, I can't help but mention you. Xia Tian spoke in a loyal tone. How about it? See how much I love you. Love my ass. But then again, that ice block face of his, and he always wears a mask. Up until now, I still haven't seen what he looks like. I only know that others call him Dr. Sheng. If it wasn't for the fact that every time I mentioned you, his expression would become even colder, I wouldn't have asked you if you knew who he was. His temper is so bad. How did this kind of person become an orthopedic doctor? I heard that he's even a provincial expert. Jinwan's expression did not reveal any emotions. Perhaps it's because the last 2 times I came to the hospital, I didn't secretly give him a red packet. He felt that I, as a patient's friend, wasn't very sensible. He doesn't seem like someone who would fuss over such a small profit. Tisk, it's fine if you're not familiar with him. Xia Tian's expression appeared as though she did not want to be frozen again. I think it's best if you don't look for him about the hospital transfer. If it doesn't work out, Dr. Sheng's face will most likely be covered in ice again. After a moment of silence, Jinwan said, I'll think of another way. I'll use my connections and try to get you transferred to another hospital before tonight. There's no need to go through so much trouble. Although Dr. Sheng's temper isn't good, his medical skills are still very good. If you're afraid that I'll meet that person again, at most, I'll make things clear with him and stop interacting with him in the future. In any case, I don't have any interest in him. No, if you break it off, then break it off completely. You have to transfer. She could not leave even the slightest bit of hope. In this life, Jinwan definitely wanted to see Xia Tian happily grow old with a truly good man. She definitely would not allow any scumbag to get close to her. Xia Tian, Ioyo, our family's Nwan's domineering manner is actually a little handsome. Jinwan ignored her and was considering if she should ask Dr. Qin for help. At this moment, Xia Tian suddenly said, Damn, I forgot to look at the time. It's actually 6:50. Dr. Sheng comes every morning at this time for his ward rounds. Right now, he should be almost here. She had just finished speaking when the sound of approaching footsteps could be heard from outside. Nwan, do you want to hide for a while? Dr. Sheng's ice-cold gaze is very powerful. I'm afraid you won't be able to take it. Xia Tian wore a paparazzi expression that seemed to be sniffing out some gossip. She winked as she spoke. Chapter 82. Jinwan raised her eyes. Her gaze landed on the white silhouette that had just entered. Hi, Dr. Sheng. The moment the door opened, Xia Tian raised her small hands and waved at the person in front of the door. The man who entered was dressed in the hospital's white gown. His figure is tall and slender like a jade tree. The moment he saw Jin Wan, he immediately furrowed his brows. When Jin Wan's cold gaze landed on him, his brows furrowed even more. Dr. Sheng, I didn't have the chance to introduce you properly the past few times. This is the best friend I've always mentioned, Jin Wan. Xia Tian introduced with an expression as though she wished for the world to be in chaos. Dr. Sheng's face below the bridge of his nose was covered by a mask, revealing only a forehead that was as clean as snow and a pair of eyes that were as cold as a river. For an instant, the room was so quiet that even the drop of a needle could be heard. Jin Wan's gaze was cold and indifferent as she stared at him. There was even a hint of mockery in the corner of her lips. Their gazes met. In less than 2 seconds, Dr. Sheng's cold gaze moved away from her cold and imposing face. He calmly said, I've seen her before. I have some impression of her. Xia Tian appeared as though she had discovered a huge piece of gossip as she sat on the bed. She opened her mouth and was about to continue speaking when she was interrupted by Jin Wan. Jin Wan's exquisite features carried traces of coldness. Her words carried a hint of teasing. Dr. Sheng, I plan to help Xia Tian with the hospital transfer procedures today. You're her attending doctor. The transfer procedures will require your signature before we can proceed. I'll have to trouble you to sign for us. Transfer? Dr. Sheng's cold gaze finally shifted toward Jin Wan. She doesn't want her legs anymore? What? She can't be transferred? Jin Wan faced him expressionlessly. Right now, her legs can't withstand any movement. The slightest jolt on the bus will be enough to cause the unconnected bones to be slightly dislocated. If she plans on walking uncoordinated for the rest of her life or becoming a cripple, I don't mind signing for her to be released right now. As he spoke, Dr. Sheng's calm and indifferent gaze landed on Jin Wan's face. Jin Wan furrowed her brows imperceptibly. A fracture was indeed not a small matter. If there was even the slightest dislocation during the healing process, it would greatly affect Xia Tian's future. Although he had to guard against that scumbag, he couldn't let anything happen to Xia Tian's leg. It's fine if she doesn't want to transfer, but I'll have to trouble Dr. Sheng to keep a close eye on her ward. Don't let those people who don't know anything come in. Right now, the person closest to her is only me. If she's really too bored while she's in the hospital, Dr. Sheng can come and chat with her when you're not busy. This kind of request isn't too much, right? Xia Tian stared at them for a long time. She didn't see or hear anything from their conversation. After staring for a long time, she suddenly heard this sentence and her face turned green. Let this ice cube come to the ward to talk to her. It will be better to leave her alone. Dr. Sheng didn't know how to say nice words to coax the patient, and he was a big iceberg. No matter what she said, he almost didn't care. If he really came to talk to her, it would probably be awkward from the moment he walked in. How awkward. Dr. Sheng's brows were cold. I don't have time. Xia Tian thought in her heart. That's right. He doesn't have time, so there's no need for this doctor to come and accompany her. However, Jin Wan unhurriedly curved her lips. She suddenly leaned closer to Dr. Sheng. Dr. Sheng's brows paused. Because of her approach, his dark eyes trembled. In that moment of absent-mindedness, he heard Jin Wan softly say with a smile that was not a smile, "A few nights ago, something big happened at the bar on the east side of the city that alarmed the police and the media. At that time, I happened to pass by. If I didn't see wrongly, you were there as well." The man's brows were hidden behind his mask. He glanced at her, but his expression did not change. There was no hint of surprise. A doctor actually has time to go to a bar at night? I wonder what exactly he did there. Jin Wan stared at him, speaking unhurriedly. He only looked at her and did not speak. Can't you empathize with a patient who's lying alone in the hospital? Xia Tian has been taken care of by you ever since she was hospitalized. Regardless of the patient's emotions or physical condition, I believe that Dr. Sheng should pay more attention to them. A doctor should be benevolent, shouldn't you? Jin Wan curved her lips at him, but her smile did not reach her eyes. Seeing that the two of them were actually whispering to each other, Xia Tian could not hear anything. She was so anxious that she wanted to jump out of the door. However, right now, she cannot even touch the walking stick by the bed, much less get off the bed. She could only glare in Jin Wan's direction with an unhappy expression. I heard that the Sheng family has two successors. One has cancer, and the other has been detained for stealing trade secrets. Jin Wan raised her brows. I don't think you can be an orthopedic doctor for much longer. Dr. Sheng's gaze darkened. Jin Wan, what do you mean? What I mean is very simple. I want you to take good care of my friend and arrange a ward for her where no one can casually disturb her. If anything happens to her here, I will not hesitate to reveal what happened back then. Right now, it's a crucial time for you to officially return to the Sheng family. You need an honorable reason, but I, with a single word, can destroy your reputation. Jin Wan finished speaking and looked at him coldly. How is it, Dr. Sheng? My personality right now is not as easy to handle as it was several years ago. It's just a small request. Are you still not going to agree? Dr. Sheng did not speak. After a moment, he said mildly as though he had no tone. You seem to know a lot about the Sheng family's matters. Jin Wan chuckled softly. I've already said what I need to say, Dr. Sheng. 10 minutes later, Jin Wan received a call and left. Xia Tian sat on the bed with a dazed expression. She watched the man who had one hand in his white pocket and did not leave for a long time. That Dr. Sheng. Xia Tian stared at him in shock. Are you going to continue your war rounds? Or, the man in front of the ward glanced at her. His gaze was indifferent, as though he did not have any emotions. SS. What did Jin Wan mean by leaving this block of ice in her room? After not receiving a response for a long time, Xia Tian obediently laid on the bed, tugging the blanket upwards. Her gaze occasionally drifted toward the ice mountain by the door. It was as though a century had passed when Dr. Sheng's low and cold voice suddenly rang. What do you want to talk about? Xia Tian almost jumped up from the bed. She stared at him in astonishment. Her lips trembled for a long time before she swallowed her saliva. She carefully said, Really? The man furrowed his brows. His gaze remained cold, and he did not speak. She did not expect that he would actually agree to Jin Wan's request. Xia Tian suddenly spoke, as though she had been blessed, that chatting is secondary. If you don't want to talk, I won't force you. But can you remove your mask for me to take a look? Dr. Sheng looked at her coldly. After a moment, he silently raised his hand to take off his mask. Chapter 83. MO Corporation. The doors to the large conference room on the 20th floor opened. The various levels of management filed out. Shen Mu followed behind Mo Jingshen, holding a stack of documents in his hands. As he read through them, he softly explained to Mo Jingshen several suspicious points from the meeting earlier. Mo Jingshen returned to the company's top floor. His long legs stepped out of the elevator. Secretarian, who had been waiting for a long time, approached him. CEO Mo, the G family's miss is here. Earlier on, you were in a meeting, so I had her wait for you in the office. Secretary Anne's smiling eyes met his gaze. The G family's miss? Mo Jingshen's words did not waver. If the person who came was Jin Wan, and Shu Yin would definitely not use such a form of address. Even if she did not address Jin Wan as Mrs. Mo, she would not use such confusing terms. Secretarian slowly smiled at him. CEO Mo, there are still some documents to tidy up in the secretary's office. I'll go get busy first. Mo Jingshen only listened and did not respond. He returned to the office. The moment he entered, he saw the so-called G family's miss. Ji Mingran was currently tidying up the documents on the CEO's office. There was a cup of freshly brewed coffee on the table. Mo Jingshen's expression was as cold as ice. What are you doing here? Ji Mingran raised her head and smiled at him. Brother Jingshen, have you been very busy recently? Mo Jingshen stood in front of the office door. The door was open, but he did not enter. His cold tone became heavier. This is not a place you can enter. Get out. Ji Mingran had just tidied up a stack of documents. Hearing his words, she obediently placed the documents back in their original positions. She then raised her eyes and smiled at him. Earlier on, I only wanted to wait here for you and help you tidy up. Seeing that you don't even have a cup of coffee, I personally brewed one for you. Hurry and try it. I don't know if you prefer American or Mo Jingshan's brows were slightly stern. The Mo Corporation doesn't lack secretaries or assistants. There's no need for you to do such things. I rarely drink coffee in the office. You can leave now. Jimin Gran didn't seem to hear his intention to drive her away. She moved away from his desk and walked closer to the door. As she walked, she said obediently, "I know. My sister has been spoiled for a long time. She can't do this kind of thing. I just helped you tidy it up." As she spoke, she paused, her gaze seemingly glued to his body. "Brother Jingshun, I can explain what happened at the Mo family that day." Mo Jingshun furrowed his brows. Ji Mingran bit her lip. "At that time, I really didn't have any ill intentions. I just accidentally said the wrong thing. Then, Big Sister slapped me hard on the face, and I accepted it. I've never done anything wrong since I was young. The first time I did something wrong, she slapped me hard 3 times. Today, I'm here to—" Ji Mingran's eyes widened. After being grounded at home by her father for several days, she finally seized the opportunity to run out of the Ji family home when Ji Hongwen went to the neighboring city to discuss a collaboration. Shenharu did not look at her too harshly. Ji Mingran had thought about it for the past 2 days. Since Jinwan had made things clear that day, she couldn't act the way she did in the past. If she wanted to obtain this man, she had to adapt to the situation. As long as she persevered, she did not believe that Mo Jingshan would not be able to see her sincerity. 3 slaps? It seems like Jinwan was merciful. Based on your uninvited actions today, it's only right for her to slap you 10 times. Mo Jingshan expressionlessly interrupted her. Ji Min Gran suppressed the unwillingness in her heart. She choked for a moment before saying, "Did you really not notice that Jinwan has changed a lot? In the past, her words and actions were very straightforward. She would never beat around the bush when doing things. But the current Jinwan, no matter what she says or does, it seems like there's a purpose to it. She hides a lot of thoughts. I suspect that the reason she suddenly approached you is because she has some ulterior motives. Brother Jingshun, you mustn't be deceived by her." Although she knew that Mo Jingshan would not easily pay attention to her words, Ji Mingran still wanted to remind him that Jinwan's change was definitely not that simple. It had already been so long. She did not believe that he had not suspected Jinwan's change. Mo Jingshan's lips curved up imperceptibly. It seemed like a smile, but it was cold and devoid of warmth. Ji Mingran instinctively tensed up. The Ji family's second miss came to my place to stir up trouble, and the person she's stirring up is even her own sister. Is this how your Ji family's upbringing is? Ji Mingran composed herself and smiled meaningfully. Our Ji family's upbringing. Brother Jingshun, can't you see it more clearly in my sister? Mo Jingshan's lips curved even deeper. His gaze also became much colder. Ji Mingran did not look directly into his eyes. In the past, the one who caused trouble in front of you was clearly Jinwan. Brother Jingshun, you're so good to her. She's not worthy of your protection. In the past, she didn't seem to have a good upbringing in front of you. So what's so good about Jinwan? If you had even half of Jinwan's upbringing and awareness, you wouldn't be thinking about your sister's husband. Mo Jingshan's thin lips spat out these cold words. He was extremely harsh. Scram! Ji Mingran's face instantly turned red and white. After being stiff for a long time, she bit her lips harshly. Brother Jingshun, I just want to talk to you more. I don't have any other intentions. There's nothing wrong with liking someone. Besides, back then, Jinwan only married you unwillingly. It's only a family marriage. If it weren't for the fact that I'm still a year away from the legal age of marriage, perhaps the person who married you would be me. Mo Jingshan was cold and indifferent. Do you think that if the Mo family randomly shoves a fiancé in my hands, I'll definitely marry her? Ji Mingran heard the hidden meaning in his words and secretly furrowed her brows. Did he mean that if it wasn't for Jinwan, he would not have agreed to marry her? She took a deep breath and suddenly turned around to pick up the coffee on the office table. She walked over and said earnestly, Brother Jingshun, no matter what you think, I've already said it. This is the coffee I personally brewed. Try it. Mo Jingshun was unmoved. Ji-min Gran insisted. It's really delicious. I remember that in the past, Jin-won didn't even know how to brew coffee. I don't think I'm worse than Jin-won in any way. I can even improve myself for you. Right now, I don't even know what Jin-won's motives are. I'm afraid that one day, you'll be hurt by her. The coffee was handed over, but Mo Jingshun did not take it. He did not even have the intention to extend his hand. His tone was mild. I don't hit women. Are you going to scram yourself? Or are you going to call the MO Corporation security up? Ji-min Gran did not have any intention of leaving. She continued to stare at him. At this moment, the sound of high heels hitting the ground could be heard from outside the office. Chapter 84. Secretarian saw the displeasure in Mo Jingshun's eyes and softly explained, "Co, Mo, when you were in the meeting, the front desk called and said that Miss G wanted to see you. I thought it was Mrs. Mo, so I did not dare to let them stop her and directly let her in. When she came up, I only recognized her as the second miss of the G family. However, she had already arrived at the office and said that she had something important to discuss with you. I saw that she was Mrs. Mo's family member and could not be considered an outsider, so I made the decision to let her enter the office." Mo Jingshun's eyes and brows were cold as he smiled. To be able to make such a low-level mistake, Secretarian, it seems like America's high evaluation of you needs to be examined. Secretary Anne's expression slightly hardened. After 2 seconds, she softly said, "COMO, I'm very sorry. In the future, I won't make such a mistake again. I won't let anyone unrelated to the company in, much less let them enter your office." Mo Jingshun's expression was unreadable. Jinwon is also unrelated to the company. When she comes, what do you plan to do? Secretary and did not immediately reply. After a moment of silence, she replied, "If it's Mrs. Mo who comes to the company, I will first call CO Mo to ask for instructions. After asking, I ask for instructions?" From the corner of Mo Jingshun's eyes, he coldly glanced at Ji-min Gran, who was still standing there. He only glanced at her indifferently before speaking to Secretarian coldly. "Is this your true plan?" Secretarian lowered her eyes. Her voice was still calm and gentle. "CEO Mo, I don't understand what you're saying. Aside from Jinwon, anyone who comes to the company to ask to see me, have them look for Shinmu first. If there's a need, have him let them in." Mo Jingshun placed one hand in his pocket. The door to the office was closed. His voice was low and calm, neither fast nor slow. "As for Secretarian, I should indeed ask for instructions from America to see if there's a need to keep you in the MO Corporation." The 2 words, "ask for instructions," were inadvertently emphasized by Mo Jingshun, causing one to feel a chill. Secretary and instantly pursed her lips and raised her eyes. "CEO Mo, if you think that letting Mrs. Mo's sister up today was a wrong decision, you can punish me according to the employee rules. In these few days that I've been in the MO Corporation, other than abiding by my duties, I've never done anything wrong. If CEO Mo wants to send me back to America now, won't that seem a little too selfish?" The corners of Mo Jingshun's lips curved into an unnoticeable, cold smile. "I'm selfish? What is Secretarian's motive for doing today? I only let the G family's daughter up because I considered that she is Mrs. Mo's," Secretarian calmly explained. "From now on, you can use this as a logical excuse to remind me that I should distinguish between business and private matters in the company. From now on, even if it's Jean Wan, she will have to go through you before she can enter the company?" Mo Jingshun narrowed his eyes, interrupting her. His face was clear and light in a smile, but it caused one to tremble. Secretary and perfectly displayed her good upbringing. She smiled slightly and revealed a bit of stubbornness. "I'm only trying my best to do my job. The CEO's office is not a domestic market. There should be rules. Previously, I saw that you allowed Mrs. Mo to enter and leave as she pleased, so I thought that you would not be too strict with her sister." Secretary Anne's expression changed. Her voice paused. In order not to anger him, she softly said, "I've just arrived at the MO Corporation. 2 days ago, I didn't stay for too long at the MO family home before leaving. I'm not particularly familiar with CEO Mo's habits and the people around you. I'm very sorry for this mistake. In the future, I definitely won't make it again. There's no future, Mo Jingshin slowly and coldly said. Secretary N's brows furrowed. So, Mo Jingshin's voice was very low, revealing an unapproachable coldness. 4 days later, America's Shine will be signing a contract in the country. After the collaboration dinner, you'll go back with them. Secretary N gripped the documents in her hands tightly. She could barely maintain the calm she was supposed to have. CEO Mo, are you in such a rush to chase me back to America? Shine suits you better, he coldly said. Secretary N was silent for a long time. After a long while, she raised her eyes and softly said, 4 days later, is it? Then in the 4 days that I'll continue to work by your side, I'll continue to abide by my duties and do what I need to do well. I'll also prepare for the handover in 4 days. In the past few days, thank you for taking care of me. Mo Jingshin appeared as though he did not hear anything. He had already entered the office. At the same time, his gaze coldly glanced at Ji Min Gran, who was still standing by the door. His voice, however, was directed at the person outside. Bring this person out the way you brought her in. Secretary and turned to look at Ji Min Gran. Ji Min Gran still wanted to say something, but when she received Secretary N's warning gaze, she paused for a moment. She could only softly say, Brother Jing Shun, Secretary and is a very good person. Don't send Secretary away because of me. After speaking, she appeared to be very understanding as she walked out. The office door closed with a pong. Ji Min Gran glanced at the closed door and softly complained, I really don't know what he's thinking. What's so good about Jinwan? She has so many tricks up her sleeves and often flaunts her love. Brother Jing Shun is such a low-profile person, yet he allows her to flaunt her love. Furthermore, Secretarian did not speak. She only looked at the door that isolated them outside. She had known Mo Jingshin for many years. She could tell that he was mature and calm. She also understood that he was low-profile and reserved. Accompanying a woman to flaunt their love was something that he would disdain to do. Did he really love Jinwan that much? Monwan Studio, conference room. Jinwan came directly after receiving the call from the hospital. The two companies had just merged into a studio. There were still many complicated matters waiting to be dealt with. Before entering the conference room, she sneezed twice. She clearly did not catch a cold recently. Why did she suddenly sneeze? Who was scolding her behind her back? Boss Nguyen, the meeting is about to begin. Are you feeling unwell? Xiao Ba, the intern assistant who had just arrived, asked with concern. I'm fine. Jinwan walked in. Today was the first management meeting after merging the two companies into Monwan Studio. After Jinwan sat down, she looked around at everyone's expressions. She had a rough idea of what was going to happen. After all, they were the management left behind by Han Tianyuan. What had to happen would happen sooner or later. Half an hour into the meeting, the HR manager stood up and said, Miss G, I've decided to resign. Jinwan's gaze was calm as she glanced at him. Reason? It's impossible for me to work under a 20-year-old woman. A young lady wants to lead these two companies, vainly try to interfere in the real estate industry, and even merge into some studio. From the way I see it, your concept and thinking of the company are not mature enough. The management system of the studio is also very weak. There is no future for me to develop here. Chapter 85. Jinwan calmly sipped the coffee that Xiaoba had just handed over and did not immediately respond. Afterward, several other managers stood up. Most of them were important managers or department heads. I'm sorry, we also intend to resign. Jinwan put down the coffee, her lips curving into an unfathomable smile. Anything else? The conference room fell into silence once more. It was as though everyone could imagine how flustered and helpless Jinwan must be right now, and how she had lowered herself to beg them not to leave because of the lack of suitable managers. However, no one expected that Jinwan's response would be such a cold word. The HR manager who had taken the lead paused. Miss G, what do you mean by this? The few of us resigned after careful consideration. We did not discuss it in private. Are you implying that we deliberately incited everyone to leave with us? Jinwan calmly raised her brows. Did I say that? You took the initiative to resign. Firstly, I didn't reject you. Secondly, I didn't give you any face. Why are you so agitated? Seeing her indifferent attitude, the HR manager felt that he was being looked down upon by a 20-year-old girl. Originally, he wanted to give her a show of strength. However, he did not expect that this young lady of the Ji family, who was once famous in Haicheng, was completely unmoved when it came to management. The expressions of the managers who had just submitted their resignations all changed. The conference room was deathly silent. Those who have submitted their resignations today, after the meeting ends, go to the finance department to collect your salaries, Jinwan unhurriedly said. Those who remain, if you have any thoughts on the studio's development, I'll give you 3 days to write a letter and send it to my email. After the studio is officially established, the salaries of the remaining managers and employees will be doubled. Jinwan took another sip of coffee, calmly glancing at the various expressions in the conference room. Where were we? Let's continue the meeting. By the time the meeting ended, it was already past 8 in the evening. Jinwan walked out of the conference room, with Xiaoba following closely behind her. Boss Nguyen, did you notice that those people's faces looked like they couldn't hold it in anymore? Jinwan curved her lips. Ever since these 2 companies fell in my hands, those subordinates who used to follow Han Tianyuan have all harbored their own thoughts. If they want to leave, they can leave. Could it be that they are waiting for me to ask them to stay? With that, she looked back at Xiaoba. But why do you always call me Boss Nguyen? Xiaoba shyly raised her hand and pushed up the black-rimmed glasses on her face. A few days ago, everyone called you CEO G, but those managers all said that you're too young to be called CEO G. Didn't they just call you Miss G in the conference room? I can't stand their stares, and I don't want to lose my job in the studio, so I call you boss. Jinwan, Han Tianyuan, that trash. What kind of people did the company recruit? Most of the management didn't have much ability, and the few who took the initiative to resign today were just what she wanted. Among the remaining employees, there were many who were lazy and did not have any professional knowledge of the market. This seemingly diligent and energetic intern assistant turned out to be a nerd with a slightly low EQ. His straightforwardness could only be described as cute. At the same time, Jinwan glanced at an office not far from her. Several secretaries were secretly putting on makeup in front of the computer. Their eyes glanced out and caught sight of her. Frightened, they hurriedly hid the makeup bag in their hands into the drawer. Jinwan was about to enter when all of a sudden, her phone rang. She picked up the phone, glancing toward the office once more. Mo Jingshin's voice that was as pleasant as a clear spring came from the other end of the phone. You didn't go home? I'm still in the studio. I just dealt with some management matters and will be heading back soon. After receiving the call, Jinwan's stern expression instantly softened. Studio? I merged the 2 companies I bought from Han Tianyuan and renamed it Mo Nguyen Studio. How about it? This name sounds good, right? Mo Jingshin chuckled softly. Not bad. Jinwan was about to ask for some credit for this name and see if the great CEO Mo would give her some face and officially give a name. Before she could open her mouth, she heard Mo Jingshin ask, "Where's the studio's location?" At Jinlin Building. You drove? I did, but there's no parking lot here. The car was parked a little far. As she spoke, Jinwan glanced out the window. It was actually raining outside. It was already autumn. At this time, it was raining heavily. The temperature outside would most likely be very low. Wait, I'll come pick you up. After speaking, the man hung up the phone. Jinwan did not bring an umbrella with her. There were too few parking spaces nearby, and the car was parked a little far away. If she just went out like this, it would definitely not work. Since her husband had decided to come pick her up, there was no reason for her to stand on ceremony. However, this place was quite a distance away from MO Corporation. Furthermore, it was currently a rainy night. The road conditions were most likely not good, and the traffic was heavy. Jinwan decided not to rush. She turned around and entered the office. When the secretaries in the office saw Jinwan enter, they subconsciously stared at the computer in front of them pretending to be working overtime. Today's overtime is because the various departments are busy organizing the company's information and connecting the various departments. Do you all have nothing to do? Jean-Wan asked. One of the especially beautiful secretaries glanced around. Seeing that no one answered, she coughed and spoke up. I'm a secretary. Those matters are not under our control. Secretary? Then what about them? We're also secretaries. The other young secretaries also spoke up. Their eyes would occasionally glance at Jean-Wan, observing if the legendary number 1 socialite of Haicheng was really that beautiful. Previously, there were only 2 small companies. Why are there so many secretaries? Jean-Wan turned back to glance at Xiaoba. Secretaries were not the same as secretaries. To put it nicely, they were called secretaries. To put it bluntly, they were just little girls who worked part-time as typists and photocopied documents. Xiaoba lowered her head and did not dare to speak. Jean-Wan glanced at her again. Xiaoba then softly said, "It's because CEO Han used to be here, that he hired them to be secretaries. Why did he hire so many?" Xiaoba lowered her voice even more. Because they're beautiful when they came to apply. Even if there weren't any suitable positions, CEO Han would arrange for them to be in the secretary's office, which happens to be facing his office. Jean-Wan's temples instantly throbbed. As expected, she was scum. Bring out their information. Let me take a look. Xiaoba made an O sound and rushed to look for the information. The so-called secretaries in the office all perked up their ears to hear their conversation. One of them felt that she would not be able to stay here for long. She stood up unwillingly and began to silently pack her things into her bag, planning to leave. Chapter 86. Due to Jean-Wan's threatening tone, the secretary paused for a moment. She then raised her head and said with disdain, "Che, aren't you just relying on the fact that your family has some stinky money? Do you think you're very capable just because you bought 2 companies?" Jean-Wan smiled faintly. "You're not convinced? How would I dare to not be convinced? You're the G family's young lady. Hasn't the company been consolidated into some studio? I'm sure Miss G won't be able to tolerate us. Rather than waiting to be chased out by you, I'd rather leave myself." With that said, the clerk gave a look to the other colleagues, and the other clerks started to pack up without a word. Jean-Wan glanced at the secretary who was the first to rebel. She nodded her head in approval. And self-awareness isn't a bad skill. Before you leave, remember to turn off the lights in the office. The electricity here isn't for you to hide behind the computer and put on makeup. Xiaoba had just returned with the personal files of the secretaries. Jean-Wan received it and saw the photo on the file at the very top. It was the one who had taken the initiative to argue with her earlier. That secretary suddenly sarcastically said, "The G family's young lady is still short of such a few yuan in electricity bills? We're not very clear about your personal situation, but we heard that you married into the famous MO family in Haicheng. Is the MO family CEO your husband? You've been married for quite a long time, but you haven't gotten pregnant yet. You'd better not be infertile. Otherwise, you'll be kicked out sooner or later. The MO family definitely won't want a chicken that can't lay eggs." The moment she finished speaking, the other secretaries all laughed mockingly. Jean-Wan did not get angry and instead smiled. She casually tossed the personal file in her hands onto the table by the side. "This file is yours? 30 years old, unmarried, and staying in such a small company for an entire year without leaving. Are you delusional enough to climb up to the Han family? Not to mention that Han Tianyuan can no longer see the light of day. Even the previous him had slept with so many women. With your looks, I'm afraid you won't even be able to climb onto a proper hotel bed." That secretary instantly glared at her. "What nonsense are you spouting? I'm only 23 years old. Oh, it seems like you purposely lied to others about your age. But according to your ID, you're indeed 30 years old." At the same time, Jean-Wan glanced at her chest. "That's right. I was just about to ask, where did you get your chest done? To be able to grow from an airport to such a large size, and yet only have a slight sagging, the plastic surgery hospital must be quite good." She pointed at the photo on the file in her hand. "This photo should have been taken more than a year ago, and her upper body could be seen. Is this how Miss G slandered people? My breasts are real. The secretary was so angry that her eyeballs almost popped out of their sockets. Don't be so agitated. The prosthesis on the chin is almost crooked from anger. The double eyelids were done many years ago, right? Don't think that just because you are the Lee said by and to say, gee, that you buy, I don't think that just because you're in charge of this place, you can say whatever you want. The secretary's lips turned green. The photo from before is right here. I wonder if Han Tianyuan would have given you the opportunity to be his secretary if he had carefully looked through your file. Jean Wan casually placed the other people's files to the side. That secretary immediately rushed forward and picked up her own file. She quickly stuffed it in her bag and turned to leave. However, when she saw that it was raining heavily outside, she turned back to glare at Jean Wan. She took out her phone and made a call. After the call connected, she said sweetly, "Dear, I'm off work. The rain outside is too heavy. Can you drive over to pick me up?" After that, she hung up. She turned back and rolled her eyes at Jean Wan in disdain. She said with some pride, "There are plenty of men chasing after me. CEO Han is just one of them. As long as I beckon with my finger, all the rich men will line up to the end of my office. As for this broken place of yours, this great aunt doesn't want to stay anymore." Finishing her words, she twisted her waist and entered the elevator. Jean Wan looked at that figure and instinctively tugged at the corner of her lips. She had no intention of quarreling with others. However, the vases and trash that Han Tianyuan had brought in earlier, she could not possibly be so bored as to raise them. Jean Wan turned around and returned to her own office. 10 minutes later, Jean Wan left the studio and went downstairs. She saw that the secretary from earlier was standing in front of the revolving door on the first floor. Beside her were two other secretaries from the same office. A luxurious car worth $1,000,000 stopped in front of the door. That secretary immediately raised her brows in pride. She turned back and saw that Jean Wan had also come down. She immediately revealed an even prouder smile at her. Under the envious gazes of the two colleagues by her side, she raised the bag in her hand to cover her head and ran down the stairs. When she reached the car door, she opened it and bent down to say to the person inside, "Dear, my colleagues aren't being picked up. Can you send them home on the way?" After that secretary turned back and called for the two female colleagues to enter the car. She then rolled her eyes at Jean Wan in disdain and sat in the car while twisting her waist. She then closed the door in a confident manner. In the car, the two female colleagues could not stop exclaiming and praising, "This is really too rich, isn't it? It's the latest model of Porsche. Ah. I also wish to have such a rich boyfriend. I'm really too envious. Wow. There's even a bouquet of blue roses in the car. Ah, dear, your boyfriend is really too romantic." That secretary smiled delightedly. She turned and kissed the man in the car. At the same time, she used a disdainful gaze to glance at Ji Nguyen, who was still standing alone in front of the building. The envious voices in the car continued. In the rainy night, the sound of an engine suddenly came from outside. The black and noble car easily overtook this car in the midst of the crowded cars and neatly stopped in front of the building. Holy shit. One of the female colleagues looked out with sharp eyes. Rolls-Royce Commemorative Limited Edition Ghost. Is this the legendary Ghost worth over 60 million yuan? Heavens, this car is too cool, isn't it? It's really so cool. This car is too cool. The design of the car body is really nice. It's really the most eye-catching one out of all the luxury cars here. If I can sit in this kind of car, I wouldn't have lived my life in vain. Who is this car here to pick up? I heard that this seems to be the car of MO Corporation CEO. The car instantly fell into a deathly silence. MO Corporation CEO? MO Jingshan. Chapter 87. The women in the car each had their own thoughts, but their eyes were filled with excitement as they stared at the man who stepped out of the Ghost. The man was dressed in a cold-colored suit. His figure was slender and well-proportioned, and his casual posture and steps appeared very upright. After he stepped out of the car, he held a black umbrella in one hand and removed his similarly cold-colored long jacket with the other. He approached Jinwan and held the umbrella firmly over her head. There was no hypocritical romance like casually gifting her a bouquet of blue roses. Instead, the lofty man personally stepped out of the car, stepped across the rain-soaked asphalt, and held the umbrella over Jinwan's head. The moment he approached, he directly draped the jacket over Jinwan's back. At the same time, his long arms reached out to pull her into his embrace to prevent her from being drenched by the wind and rain outside the umbrella. The legendary Mo Jingshin was said to be extremely cold and difficult to approach. However, in front of Jinwan, he did not put on any airs at all. His meticulous care surpassed everything else. Mo Jingshin lowered his head to see that Jinwan's complexion was slightly pale from the wind. He held her as they walked toward the car. "I asked you to wait obediently, not to run out and wait in the wind. I calculated the time and felt that you would arrive soon. I was afraid that your appearance in my small studio would cause too much of a commotion, so I came down first." Jinwan touched the jacket that was just draped over her body. "I have a jacket on me. Quickly put it on." Mo Jingshin pressed down on her hand that was about to take off the jacket and directly brought her to the car. He opened the door for her to enter first. The wind and rain outside were very heavy. Jinwan was brought all the way to the car, but she was not drenched by the rain at all. She did not even feel the slightest bit wet. After Mo Jingshin entered the car, he prompted her to fasten her seatbelt. Outside the car, the sound of the rain was soft, and the man's voice was especially seductive. "Why are you so gloomy? In a bad mood?" Jinwan tugged on her seatbelt and casually answered, "No, it's just that I just merged the studio. There are many people and things that need to be sorted out. I'm a little tired." Mo Jingshin glanced at her listless expression and lightly snorted. "Treating your husband as a decoration? From the very beginning, I never intended for you to interfere in the purchase of these two small companies. Mrs. Mo, do you really want to achieve something yourself? If I can't make myself better and more qualified to stand by your side, there will only be more and more people gossiping behind my back. They can't wait for me to sink into the dust and widen the gap between us," Jinwan said half-jokingly. Mo Jingshin's lips curved. "Dust? Even if someone presses you into the ground, I can still pull you out. That's not necessarily true. When I'm by your side, others probably don't even dare to touch a strand of my hair. But what if one day you're not by my side?" Jinwan had only casually said this because of her previous life's experience. Mo Jingshin suddenly turned around, glancing at her. Mo Jingshin's sudden glance confused her. She thought he was dissatisfied with her words, so she didn't continue to talk nonsense. Indeed, everything from her previous life was in the past. The current her was definitely in control of the direction of her life. The gains and losses and fears of the past should not continue to affect her. She thought Mo Jingshin was slightly displeased, but why was it that after only a moment of silence, the man suddenly leaned over? Jinwan raised her eyes to meet his black eyes due to his familiar scent. She was stunned for a moment. "Why are you?" She was astonished, and the sound she made was completely swallowed by him. The rain outside was heavy. There were cars speeding by in front, and the street lights on the left illuminated the area. Even though the car windows were completely shut from the angle of the front window, they could more or less see the situation inside the car. Jinwan frantically raised her hand to push him away, but the man did not stand on ceremony. He abruptly bit down on her lips, forcing her teeth apart. Slowly, he kissed her inch by inch. Warm and strong hands moved down from her shoulders, pulling her into his embrace through the seatbelt. Jinwan was slightly dizzy from the kiss. She panted and tried to avoid it, but the man's kisses landed on the side of her neck and ears. He kissed her earlobe, moved around, and sucked on her collarbone. He moved down, biting the edge of her collar as he tugged it down. Jinwan's hair that was scattered behind her was slightly messy as it circled around her fair neck. "This is in the car." Jinwan struggled to find her voice, but it was only a soft moan. Mo Jingshin's kiss continued, not giving her the slightest chance to retreat. He entangled the kiss and slowly moved down the side of her neck. Jinwon was kissed so hard that she couldn't control herself. She whispered a reminder in his ear. Her voice was unbelievably soft. She hooked her arms around his neck and gripped the collar of his shirt tightly, as though she was afraid that she would slip from the seat. Her body seemed to be on fire. Her hand moved down, and her eyes were misty as she pressed her fingers against his shoulder. Even the passing cars could see it. Emo Jingshan paused and did not continue. After 2 seconds of silence, he lowered his voice against her neck. I won't bully you here. His voice was very low and hoarse. Was this not considered bullying? It was as though the car was about to shake right here. Everything was fine, and he suddenly kissed her. He clearly knew that she could not resist his kiss and was almost subdued by him here. Jinwon glanced sideways, secretly glaring at the man who had returned to control the steering wheel. In the Porsche opposite, although they could not see clearly, they could vaguely see Jinwon being pressed against the car and kissed for a long time by Emo Jingshan. All of them swallowed their saliva in envy. For a man like Emo Jingshan, not to mention his illustrious family background or his outer appearance, he was definitely the best in the world. Furthermore, his figure was also extremely good. It was likely that in bed, he would definitely be the type that would make women wish they were dead. She then looked at the skinny, fake nouveau riche in the car. In an instant, she felt that there was no way to compare them. It was as though they were billions of light years apart, like the difference between clouds and mud. The 2 female colleagues only quietly glanced at each other, not daring to show all of their disdain on their faces. However, the clerk sitting in the front row already had a sour expression on her face. She stared at the black and noble limited edition Ghost as it steadily drove away from the building with a sweet-sounding engine sound. After returning home, Emo Jingshan did not speak. Jinwon thought that after driving for so long, he should have already calmed down. Perhaps tonight, she could check the office's email before sleeping. In the end, the moment she entered the password and the door opened, before Jinwon could even change her shoes, she was suddenly pulled in by the man. She could not even make a sound before she was kissed. Following that, her nose, cheeks, ears, chin, and finally her lips. Jinwon wanted to ask why he was suddenly so passionate tonight. There were clearly no signs of ambiguity earlier. Chapter 88. Jinwon did not have the time to think. All of her consciousness was carried by the man, and the moment she fell onto the sofa, it disappeared into nothingness. Emo Jingshan knelt by her side, trapping her beneath him. His kisses moved down her neck bit by bit. Jinwon placed her hand on his shoulder, softly saying, "Wait a minute." The man's movements did not stop. His low and hoarse voice whispered by her ear, and she pushed against his shoulder even more forcefully, raising her voice slightly. "I thought of a few problems that I discovered in the studio earlier. I need you to help me analyze them. After all, this is my first time managing. I'm not as skilled and decisive as you. I don't need you to interfere in other aspects, but I still need you to help me with some decisions." He paused, lowering his eyes to look at her. "Must you say it now? It's not that it has to be now, but I made a bet with my father. It's already been half a month, and there's still no progress in the studio. I'm afraid that if it continues to be delayed..." Emo Jingshan's elegant and deep brows rose slightly. "With me around, what are you afraid of? I just want you to find some time to be my strategist. It's not like I want you to waste so much effort to interfere with my studio." He chuckled softly. "Your studio has my name, but you don't plan on letting me interfere. Am I just wasting my time? My studio is just a small studio. You're usually very busy. I don't want to waste too much of your time and energy. Time and energy can be accommodated, but it also depends on who it's being used against." Emo Jingshan sighed, smiling as he leaned down once more. "Every time, you're always thinking of ways to find a topic to talk about. Can't you take the initiative tonight? And don't change the topic. You're clearly the one who interrupted my main topic." The man kissed her cheeks from time to time and said casually, "If you have any questions, sort them out and send them to me tomorrow. If you really can't cope with the management who just took over, I can transfer the elites of MO Corporation's personnel department to help you. Of course, if you need, I can go there myself. That's not necessary. It's not that I can't cope with it. Although I'm very confident about the future development of the studio and the profits it can make, after all, I haven't learned much about financial management. I feel that sometimes I'm a little stubborn. If I'm too stubborn, it may have the opposite effect. But if I don't establish my authority, I can't control those people. If the studio wants to develop steadily in the long run, interpersonal relationships and management are also very important. If she allowed Mo Jingshun, this god, to enter her small studio, those people would most likely explode. And you're right. Mo Jingshun sat down by her side. Jinwan thought he wasn't going to continue, but he put her on his lap. He kissed her face again, which made her heart itch, but she couldn't resist it at all. Her whole body was hooked, and she leaned softly in his arms, without the strength to move. Then, do you think I should find some time to learn about business management? Previously, in order to allow me to work at G Corporation, my dad had signed me up for some related courses, but I never went, Jinwan said softly as she leaned against his chest. The man's low chuckle seemed to come from his chest. She could clearly feel it in his embrace. She was about to ask him why he was laughing when her ear was bitten by him. She hissed in pain and raised her hand to cover her ear. She turned to see Mo Jingshun's eyes were as dark as the deep sea as he softly said, "Your husband is already impatient. Do you really have to talk nonsense with me here and now?" Jinwan did not immediately retort and only glared at him. Ever since Grandfather Mo's birthday, he had indeed restrained himself for a few days. 2 days ago, he was busy at the company, and she slept early. Mo Jingshun pulled her hand over, pressing it against a certain part of his body. Jinwan subconsciously tried to pull her hand back, but he held it firmly, and she could not do so. Her entire face instantly flushed red. Mo Jingshun, you want to sleep early? He pressed against her ear, the warmth of his breath teasing her ear. Tonight, you take the initiative. I'll let you off after this one time. If I were to continue like this, Jinwan's breathing became heavier. She did not dare to move her hand, but for some reason, she asked, "Will it really end after just one time?" The man did not speak, but he had already kissed her cheek, tickling and teasing her. What counts as taking the initiative? She did not attempt to move her hand away. Jinwan thought that she had secretly watched many films when she was in school. Furthermore, 10 years later, the internet was too advanced. Many things could be found on software or on various small foreign websites. But facing Mo Jingshun, she was really at a loss. She did not know if she should learn from those films. After all, those kinds of things were a little too lewd. Besides, the men in those films were world apart from Mo Jingshun. Faced with him, Jinwan really didn't know how to deal with him. Mo Jingshun didn't know what to do. Mo Jingshun did not speak, only watching her with an unfathomable gaze. Finally, Jinwan raised her arms and wrapped them around his neck, instinctively kissing his chin. The man's hoarse voice finally came down to press against her lips. "In the Yew Garden, you secretly moved all my things back to the master bedroom. I thought you were going to use all your tricks to seduce your husband back to sleep with you. In the end, I was thinking too much." His teasing voice sounded by her ear. Jinwan's face instantly became as though it had been burned, turning even redder. Back then, she suddenly felt as though she had been reborn. She wanted nothing more than to stick her entire body to him. She wanted nothing more than for Mo Jingshun to immediately see her sincerity in wanting to be with him. Although she had indeed thought about taking the initiative to seduce him, she had never put it into practice. After all, every time, she would be led by him to the point where she could not control herself. How could she think about taking the initiative? "You're really thinking too much." Jinwan bit down harshly on his chin. The man did not seem to feel much pain, but still gave a low moan. This moan made Jinwan's head feel as though it was about to explode. His strong hands had already reached her waist, pressing her into his embrace. It was as though he was threatening to make her feel the unconcealable changes in that part of his body. Jinwan could not avoid him, and simply wrapped her arms around him. She buried her face in his neck and began to imitate the way she had seen in the past. She tentatively stuck out her tongue and kissed the man's Adam's apple. The night she was drugged, she seemed to have done this as well. However, at that time, her mind was already muddled. Later on, she was pressed down by him on the bed and did not have the strength to move. Chapter 89. Jean-Wan was kissed until she was almost out of breath. She was finally released and took a few breaths of air, lying motionlessly on his shoulder. "You're not going to continue?" Mo Jingshun was given the cold shoulder by her. He lowered his eyes to look at the lazy little woman who did not want to move. Jean-Wan raised her eyes, her expression sincere as she negotiated. "Then it's settled. Just once." The man lowered his head to look at her. "It depends on your performance." She decided to continue nibbling on his chin. She raised her hands, nibbling and kissing while unbuttoning his shirt. When her hands touched a fiery, perfect chest, she could not help but softly sigh at the wonderful feeling. She raised her face to kiss his lips. There was no need for Jean-Wan to tease him for long. Her shaky and hard actions caused Mo Jingshun to reach the end of his patience. He carried her up, walked around the sofa, kicked open the bedroom door, and brought her into the bed. Jean-Wan's clothes had long been removed. Her skirt was lifted. She only whimpered once before the man's hand reached in. She bit her lips, unwilling to make a sound. He nibbled on her earlobe, his hot breath lightly blowing on her ear. He kissed it back and forth. Her ear turned from white to pink, and from pink to red. Broken moans slowly escaped from her mouth. Jean-Wan buried her face in his shoulder, feeling the movements of his hand. She could only tightly hold on to his half-open shirt, allowing the bone-chilling stimulation to attack her. All of a sudden, a wave of white light rushed toward her. She faltered, her body trembling uncontrollably. The sound that had reached her lips was stopped by his kiss. While she was still trembling, he had already pressed against her. Jean-Wan could not help but bite his ear as well. Her voice was soft and hoarse. Annoying, Mo Jingshun sucked in a heavy breath. It was not a bad idea to die on top of her. "Let's see if you still bite me in the future. I'll bite you to death," Jean-Wan said harshly by his ear. She even used her teeth to harshly bite his ear twice. Mo Jingshun chuckled softly. He did not reply, but softly said by her ear, "Go ahead." Jean-Wan's gaze faltered. Her face was still warm, but her legs had already been easily separated. The man had already charged in. It was too heavy, too deep. Jean-Wan did not recover for a long while until she heard him whisper for her to relax. She whimpered and glared at him secretly. Her body trembled. She hadn't gotten used to it yet. So how could she relax? Who was the one who said it would be over after one try? It was only 9 o'clock when he got home. It was almost midnight when he finally finished. No matter how Jean-Wan scratched and bit him, he did not relent. After that, he took Jean-Wan to take a shower. She wrapped herself in the quilt and was about to fall asleep. The phone on the bedside table suddenly vibrated. Jean-Wan opened her eyes and glanced at it. It was Mo Jingshun's private phone. Why would there be a call at this time? Is there something urgent in the company? Mo Jingshun was still in the bathroom. Jean-Wan hugged the blanket and sat up. She picked up her phone and saw that it was an unknown number. She picked it up. Jingshun probably won't answer the phone for a while. Call back later. Jean-Wan picked up the phone and didn't wait for the other party to speak, directly explaining the situation. The person on the other end of the phone was silent for a moment. Then Secretary Anne's gentle and probing voice sounded, "Mrs. Mo? And Shuyan?" Jean-Wan's drowsiness instantly dissipated. She glanced at the caller ID and memorized it. She placed the phone back by her ear. "Secretary Anne? Calling your CEO, Mo, so late at night. Is there something urgent?" "My apologies, Mrs. Mo. I've disturbed your rest. I know that CEO Mo has a video conference with the American side at 1 o'clock tonight, so he shouldn't be resting at this time. That's why I called." Secretarian politely and gently said, "His other phone should be out of battery. That's why I called him." Jean-Wan did not speak. Calling someone else's husband in the middle of the night. Furthermore, her motive for returning to the country was so obvious. It was impossible for her to have no motive at all. I want to talk to CEO Mo about tonight's video conference. After all, it's a collaboration with America's Shine Group. Secretarian's voice paused for a moment before softly saying, "Also, I wanted to ask CEO Mo, did I leave my lipstick in his car?" Jinwan calmly glanced at the time. "Oh, lipstick, is it? When I came back with him last night, I really didn't find anything of yours in his car." "Then perhaps it fell outside," Secretarian softly said. "Why I got off work tonight? I had just left the company when my car suddenly broke down by the roadside. The rain was too heavy, and coincidentally, CEO Mo's car passed by. I asked him to give me a ride. Before I left the car, I used the lipstick to touch on my makeup. When I returned, I realized that the lipstick wasn't in my bag. I thought I left it in CEO Mo's car." Jinwan held the phone and slowly smiled. "There really isn't anything of yours in his car. Think carefully again. Did you leave it somewhere else? It's only a lipstick. Which brand is it? If Secretarian likes it, I can help you buy another one tomorrow." "There's no need for that. I'm really sorry for disturbing Mrs. Mo by calling so late at night. It's fine. Today's rain was really heavy. It should be getting colder soon. Secretarian, remember to wear more clothes and bring an umbrella to work tomorrow." "All right. Thank you, Mrs. Mo, you're welcome." Jinwan indifferently glanced in the direction of the bedroom door. She heard the sound of the bathroom door being opened. She softly said, "Jing Shun has already showered. Don't you have a video conference to discuss with him? Do you need me to pass the phone to him?" "Then I'll have to trouble." Mrs. Mo's Secretarian's voice still carried a hint of a smile. Jinwan got off the bed and walked out of the bedroom. She saw that Mo Jingshin was really planning to go to the study. "Hubby, Secretarian's call." Jinwan's voice was gentle as she walked over. When he turned back to look at her, she directly handed the phone to him. Mo Jingshin had just showered. His eyes were still filled with satisfaction. After showering, his expression was refreshed. His refreshing scent was mixed with a hint of late-night laziness. Jinwan did not look at him. She handed the phone over and turned to return to the bedroom. In the end, she had only taken 2 steps to the side when her waist suddenly tightened. The man's arm directly reached over to carry her back. Jinwan turned back to glare at him unhappily. Mo Jingshun did not let go of her, using his other hand to answer the phone. Chapter 90. What's the matter? Mo Jingshun's hand gently caressed her waist through her thin nightgown. Jinwan pursed her lips. She was silent for a moment before glancing at him. "Just now on the phone, Secretarian said that she left her lipstick in your car." Mo Jingshun's handsome brows rose slightly. "Lipstick?" Jinwan unhappily glanced at him before lowering her eyes and gently pushing away his hand around her waist. "Let go of me first. Don't we have a project to discuss with America later? I'm going to sleep first. We'll talk tomorrow." The man's hand did not move at all from her waist. When she pushed him away, he pulled her even tighter into his embrace. "It's still early." His voice was close by her ears. His words were so calm that it caused the little flames in Jinwan's heart to burn wildly. "But I'm sleepy." Jinwan unhappily struggled in his embrace. "Continue the call with your secretary. After you're done, wake me up in the bedroom." What did she say? Mo Jingshen did not let go. Due to her struggle, his voice was slightly heavy. Jinwan could not move and decided to stop struggling. She allowed herself to be trapped in his embrace. With her back facing his embrace, her emotions were hard to decipher. She said that when she got off work, her car broke down, so you gave her a ride. Mo Jingshen looked at her and sighed with a smile. He comfortingly patted her waist. "Today, the company is working overtime on Shine's project. Secretary and used to work at Shine, so she left the company at almost the same time after sorting out the project proposal." Jinwan still did not speak, only listening. "When I drove out of the company, I saw Secretarian's car parked by the roadside. The car door was open, and half of her body was soaked in the rain. Regardless of whether it was because of her superior relationship or her relationship with the family, it was impossible for her to ignore this scene. So you let her get in the car?" Jinwan glanced at him, the flames in her heart burning even brighter. Seeing that she was unhappy, Imo Jingshin's deep brows locked onto her, his hand caressing her head. I plan on sending the company's car to send her back. Secretarian said that the project documents needed for tonight's meeting are still in her bag. It should have been soaked, and she needs to rush home to prepare a new set. She directly asked if I could send her back. The corners of Jean Wan's eyes rose. She felt that this was too much of a coincidence. Her address wasn't far from the Jinlin building where you were at the time. Mo Jingshin's voice was steady and calm. His explanation was also sincere. I asked her to sit in the back row and didn't touch Mrs. Mo's exclusive seat. Don't be angry, In. Jean Wan glanced at him from the corner of her eye. Then did you kiss her? The corners of Mo Jingshin's lips curved up. He smiled ambiguously. What do you think? Secretarian specifically told me just now that when she got out of the car, she touched up her makeup at the last minute and even reapplied her lipstick. Why is she wearing lipstick? Why did you tell me so deliberately? Jean Wan looked at Mo Jingshin without blinking. Mo Jingshin did not speak, but silently watched her. After a moment, he softly asked, You don't believe me? I believe you. The corners of Jean Wan's lips curved into a deep smile, but she was secretly gritting her teeth in displeasure. But your secretarian chose such a time to call me. It's clear that she's using her little tricks to declare war on me. Could it be that I should calmly pretend that nothing has happened? How could she not believe Mo Jingshin? Furthermore, after being kissed by him for so long, there was not the slightest hint of another woman. Whether her man was clean or not, how he behaved, she was naturally clear. But what exactly was it that made Secretarian, who had been slowly advancing step by step, to suddenly make such an extreme move? Did she no longer plan to continue playing her role as the CEO's secretary? Mo Jingshin's gaze indifferently swept toward the phone on the sofa. His gaze was cold and calm. He did not say a word, and it was impossible to tell if he was happy or angry. Just as Jean Wan did not plan on dwelling on this problem at such a late hour, the man's voice suddenly came from above her head. What kind of car do you like? Jean Wan was startled. She was still in his embrace, but her brain could not keep up with this rhythm. What? What car? In the future, leave that ghost in the company for public use. Let's change to another one. Mo Jingshin's gaze was clear and deep. He watched Jean Wan's slightly confused expression. Change car? Jean Wan almost choked on her own saliva. Although she was slightly disgusted by the fact that Shuyan had sat in his car today, she was not that crazy. Furthermore, that Shuyan sat in the back row. Usually, Shenmu or others would occasionally sit in the back row. This did not make her feel disrespected or anything. Mo Jingshin's thoughtfulness in this aspect was not something many men could achieve. Thus, Jinwan did not feel the need to change cars. Furthermore, this was a car that was worth more than 60 million yuan, and it was a Rolls-Royce commemorative limited edition Ghost. The current price was like this. 10 years later, it would only be more expensive. To collectors and luxury car enthusiasts, the price might even exceed hundreds of millions. Even when she was born in the G family, she had never squandered tens of millions without batting an eyelid. There's no need to change cars. I quite like this Ghost. I'm not that unreasonable. Jean Wan pursed her lips. The man chuckled lowly by her ear. You like the Ghost? The other models of this car are also not bad. There's really no need to change. You're throwing a car worth more than 60 million yuan in the company for public use. You might as well use money to kill me. Jean Wan raised her hand and patted his chest. However, she did not hit it hard. It was more like a tickle. She glared at him, threatening. You're not allowed to change. Aren't you unhappy? Mo Jingshin's voice was very low by her side. His voice was still magnetic and pleasant to the ears. Jean Wan could hear the indulgence and compromise in his tone. She could tell that he really did not intend for her to suffer such grievances, even if it was a small grievance that others purposely created out of nothing. If you dare to change the car, I'll be even more unhappy. Jean Wan turned and bit down on his chin. In any case, it was almost time for his meeting in America. No matter how she bid him, he could not throw her back onto the bed in the bedroom. The man's gaze immediately darkened. He lowered his head and kissed her lips. Then how can I be happy? And Jinwan leaned into his embrace. She narrowed her eyes and smiled. Don't touch me for half a month. Let me rest for a while. How about that? The man did not speak. Jinwan thought that since he was willing to change a car worth 60 million yuan, he would be able to compromise over such a small matter. In the end, Mo Jingshin threw her a meaningful glance. He calmly said no. Jinwan, 60 million yuan, and you're going to throw it into the company without batting an eye. You actually won't agree to such a small request of mine? Mo Jingshin released her and turned toward the study. Without turning back, he said, don't even think about it. Chapter 91. The next morning, Jinwan did not drive herself. Instead, she sat in Mo Jingshin's car to the studio. When she entered the car, she casually scanned the interior of the car. In the end, she finally found a golden square tube of lipstick in an inconspicuous gap in the back seat. Jinwan reached out to retrieve the lipstick. She opened it to take a look and raised her brows in a light smile. When Mo Jingshin saw the lipstick, he calmly glanced at it. His tone was the same as last night. Are you sure you don't want to change the car? I'm not changing. Jinwan curved her lips, playing with the lipstick in her hand. Anyway, what I mind is not the car, and her motive is not this lipstick. Mo Jingshin's thin lips curved slightly. This little woman said that she believed him and seemed to have thought it through, but her words still carried a hint of jealousy. In the afternoon, Secretarian drove out of the company. She suddenly saw Jinwan walking past the plaza in front of the company with a small gift bag in her hand. Mrs. Mo? Secretary, and stopped the car by her side. She politely nodded and smiled at her. Jinwan turned back to look at her before glancing at her car. Secretarian's car was repaired very quickly. It broke down last night, and you can already drive it out normally today? Secretarian smiled lightly. Last night, I called the car dealer over. Their efficiency is indeed very fast. When I came to work today, I saw that the car had already been repaired and sent back. Not bad. Last night, it rained so heavily. Furthermore, it was outside of working hours, yet their efficiency is still so fast. It seems like I can visit this car dealer often in the future. Jinwan handed over the exquisite gift bag in her hand as she spoke. Secretarian was startled. This is? Last night, your lipstick was indeed left in Jingshin's car. I only saw it this morning. Jinwan smiled indifferently. It's a pity that I only found out when I sent you to the car wash. When the workers were cleaning the car, they accidentally wet your lipstick. I felt it was a pity to see that. Coincidentally, I don't have anything on today. Before I came, I bought a new lipstick of the same design. Here, take it. Mrs. Mo, there's really no need. It's just a lipstick. You don't have to buy me a new one. Besides, I accidentally left it in CEO Mo's car. The smile on Secretarian's face was polite and distant. She pushed open the car door and alighted. She was very considerate and polite as she stood beside Jinwan to talk. Jinwan noticed this detail and realized that Secretary really knew how to conduct herself well. She curved her lips slightly and calmly said, "It was already late last night, yet you still specifically mentioned the lipstick over the phone. I thought this lipstick was very important to you. I've already bought it. In any case, this color doesn't suit me. Secretarian, you should just accept it." As she spoke, she threw a small gift bag containing a lipstick into the car's seat through the window. Secretarian could not refuse and could only smile at Jinwan. How about this? I'll be heading to the business hall to retrieve some things in the afternoon. I wonder if there are any good coffee shops along the way. Mrs. Mo, would you like to have a cup of coffee with me? I'll treat you as a form of thanks for buying the new lipstick for me. This time, you've really asked the right person. I don't know a few good coffee shops. Jinwan was all smiles and did not reject anyone. Secretarian nodded and walked around the car with a smile. As she opened the car door, she said, "Then get in the car. Let's go have a cup of coffee together." It's hard to refuse such hospitality. I won't stand on ceremony, then. Jinwan smiled and entered her car. In the car, the two women casually chatted about random things along the way. However, it was as though they were purposely avoiding the topic of Mo Jingshin. They only talked about America's Shine Group and the various news in the country. They chatted and laughed as though they were having a good time. When they reached a street near the business hall, the two entered an elegant and clean coffee shop. Jinwan casually ordered a cup of mocha. Secretary and also ordered the same. Secretary and also likes to drink mocha. It's all right. I grew up in America, so I don't really drink all kinds of bitter coffee. However, mocha is indeed one of my favorites. Although Secretarian's lipstick is different from mine, the brand is the same. You also like to drink the same coffee, so our preferences are similar? Jinwan smiled as though it was unintentional. I just don't know if it's the same when it comes to liking men. Hearing these words, Secretary and was quiet for a moment. She then smiled. Mrs. Mo, you specially came to find me today to have a chat with me, right? Jinwan raised her brows. Then tell me, what do I want to talk to you about? Of course, it's to talk about so, the most Secretarian calmly and fearlessly looked into Jinwan's eyes. Mrs. Mo is a smart person. It's easy to talk to smart people. I don't need to play the role of an innocent person. To be able to come here from America, my goal is very simple and straightforward. It's just like the reason why Mrs. Mo came to find me today. It's as simple and straightforward. So, Secretarian's lipstick is really just a cover? It's to lure me out and take the initiative to find you? Jinwan instantly smiled. Secretarian's lips curved imperceptibly. Uncle Mo doesn't think highly of the marriage between you and CEO Mo, grandfather Mo, is indeed muddle-headed. The so-called family's interests also have to be considered from a long-term perspective. Although the G family was once prosperous in Haicheng, the G Corporation standards in all aspects are constantly declining. This marriage does not have the slightest bit of benefits for the Mo family. It can barely be considered a match between the two families, but it's just barely. Speaking up to this point, Secretarian directly looked into Jinwan's calm eyes. Forgive me for being blunt. Mrs. Mo, your actions before and after marriage cannot be considered a good wife. Furthermore, I heard that a few months ago, your relationship with CEO Mo was not very harmonious. You really wanted a divorce. Jinwan chuckled lightly. As expected, Secretarian's call last night was to find an opportunity for this conversation. Since Secretarian has spoken so clearly, then I won't hide it from you. Jinwan supported her chin with one hand, blinking her eyes as she smiled at her. At the start, I was indeed not very used to life as a newlywed. I'm sure you also know how Jing Shun is a person who is cold on the outside but warm on the inside. At that time, I didn't really understand him, so I always wanted to return to being single and regain my freedom. Secretarian looked at Jinwan, her eyes probing and sizing her up. Chapter 92. After Jinwan finished speaking, Secretarian, who had just received the coffee, could not help but tighten her grip on the stirring spoon placed on the cup's rim. I'm actually not very familiar with the matters between you and CEO Mo. Most of it was hearsay. Secretarian maintained a smile, but it was somewhat stiff. It seems like the relationship between you and CEO Mo is really good. It's all right. Jinwan shyly supported her chin with one hand. She blinked her eyes and smiled at her. Yesterday, when you called, he had just gone to shower. If you had called a few minutes earlier, I don't think we would have been able to pick up the call. Jinwan meaningfully blushed as she said. Also, that day, I was in Jingshin's office. Originally, we were being intimate, but suddenly, Grandfather Mo came. I shyly hid under his desk. You also know that I was actually in his office that day, but you don't know where exactly I hid, right? Secretary and did not speak. Her hand tightly gripped the stirring spoon in her cup. If Grandfather Mo did not suddenly come, Jing Shun might have directly carried me into the resting room next to his office. He is usually cold and hard to get close to, but when it comes to the matters between husband and wife, he is always so passionate that I can't handle it. Secretarian's expression could no longer be described as simply stiff. Only the corners of her lips were still forcefully curved up. This meant that she was actually still smiling, but her smile was not that natural. I'm sorry. What was I saying to you just now? Secretarian, you're not married yet. This kind of intimate topic between husband and wife is really not suitable for you. However, a man's stamina is too good. It's really troublesome. Usually, he doesn't even let me have a good night's sleep. Jean-Wan blinked at him, her smile full of sweetness and affection. Although Jean-Wan was doing it intentionally, every word she said was the truth. Every action, every tone, and every expression could not be faked. This kind of shyness and contentment was also not faked. Happiness and shyness, both real and dazzling. Secretarian slowly took a sip of coffee and then raised her eyes to smile at her. It was clear that she had regained some of her composure. I really didn't think that you would be so blissful. After all, COMO wants, Jean-Wan smiled. He wants what? My apologies. Secretarian subconsciously put her hand to her mouth, as if she had said something she should not have. This is, after all, CEO Mo's personal matter. It's not good for me to say too much. It looks like Mrs. Mo doesn't know much about his past, so all the more I can't speak carelessly. Jean-Wan nodded in understanding. We're all women, and we all have all kinds of curiosity that we shouldn't have. Your words have indeed piqued my curiosity. Just as Secretarian was about to speak, Jean-Wan smiled mildly and interrupted her. But our relationship began from our marriage, and we are loyal to our marriage. As long as my man has not cheated, nor is he too close to any other woman, and only loves me, regardless of whether he had a childhood sweetheart past or if he had an unforgettable past, that is all in the past. After all, he is my man now. We are not children. Who hasn't had a past? Don't you think so? Secretarian watched Jean-Wan for a moment. After a moment, the corners of her lips twitched. After a long while, she forced out a smile. You think so? What else? Earlier on, Secretarian casually mentioned the word past. Could it be that you're not referring to what I'm thinking? Jean-Wan's smile was light and carefree. My own husband. Exactly how good he is, and exactly how many women adore him. I understand this very well, and have long been mentally prepared. But from the moment we got married, he is my, Jean-Wan's husband. Even if he had thousands of women by his side in the past, they were all complete failures. And Shuyan was silent for a moment. She stared at Jean-Wan's expression, as though trying to see if her heart was as indifferent as she said. Jean-Wan's fingers gently tapped on the table. From start to finish, she did not take a sip of her coffee. Her tone was light and unhurried. An outstanding person will naturally have no lack of pursuers. Regardless of who it was in the past, or who it is in the future, they are all just lowly losers. Secretary Anne's gaze faltered. She did not speak. She raised the coffee cup to her lips and paused for a moment. However, she did not take another sip and place the cup down. She did not look at Jean-Wan again. So, Secretarian, regardless of whether it is her family background or her intellect, they're all so high class. You most likely would not do such a lowly thing. Even if a very persuasive elder wants to support you, Secretarian, based on your own values and bottom line, you would not allow yourself to be branded with the title of a mistress. Am I right, Secretarian? After saying all this, Jean-Wan took a sip of coffee. Her actions were calm. Even though her entire body was filled with aggression, her smile was languid, causing one to not feel the slightest bit of aggression. She was so elegant that it was as though she was watching from the sidelines, coldly watching a fish struggling in the mud. It's about time to go to the business hall. Let's drink coffee another day. Secretarian suddenly stood up and placed the 2 pink bills on the table. She picked up her bag and politely nodded at Jean-Wan before turning to leave. All right, let's meet another day. Jean-Wan raised her hand toward her. Like a lazy kitten waving its paw, she shook it at her. Before Secretarian could walk far, Jean-Wan coincidentally picked up Mo Jingshan's call. She sweetly said, Hello, hubby? I just met Secretarian at the entrance of her company. She invited me to a coffee. Secretarian's footsteps gradually quickened until she was out of the coffee shop. Your tone is like a cat that has stolen a fish. What did you talk about? Mo Jingshan could easily hear Jean-Wan's emotions from her voice. From the corner of her eyes, Jean-Wan glanced at Secretary and outside the window. As expected, before Secretarian entered the car, She turned back to look. Seeing that Jean Wan was still on the phone, she expressionlessly opened the car door and entered the car. Only after Secretary Ann's car had left did Jean Wan lightly curve her lips. What else can women talk about? Especially a woman with a strong motive toward my hubby. And so, earlier I might have been a little too fierce and scared that outstanding secretary in a way. Jean Wan held the phone as she spoke nonsensically. At the same time, she touched the already cold coffee cup by her hand. The man's low chuckle came from the other side of the phone. What? Your ability to bite people can be used on others? Chapter 93. Perfect. M.O. Jingshin's voice was low and seductive. Who's more perfect than my Mrs. M.O.? Don't try to coax me with such sweet words. Secretary Ann said today that the number of women you've had in the past could line up several times around the world. In the next moment, she could hear his low and husky laughter through the phone. Mrs. Mo's ability to rebuke people has improved by several times. Did you train your mouth overnight? Or have you been plotting against me for a long time? A wise man submits to circumstances. If I want to live a good life, I don't have to consider hugging someone else's thigh. After all, my husband is the thickest thigh in Haicheng. It would be a waste not to hug him. Furthermore, Jean Wan supported her chin with one hand, speaking into the phone. You've already swept away all the unnecessary obstacles on your thigh, leaving all the empty space for me. How could I not hug it? So, Mrs. Mo's change is because you finally learned to be tactful? The man's voice deepened, and Jean Wan heard a pen lightly tapping on the table on his side. Inexplicably, he could feel a dangerous aura coming from the other side of the phone. Being tactful is secondary. What's important is that Boss Mo's wisdom, martial prowess, and handsomeness have deeply convinced me. Jean Wan raised her brows. Why don't you say that I've subdued you through sleeping with me? The man's tone was mild. Jean Wan was suddenly unable to refute. After all, she had indeed slept with him for one night. After waking up, she had completely changed. How else could she explain? She was completely speechless. Jean Wan decided to change the topic. I was just talking about the women you've had in the past. Don't talk about sleeping with me when you're so serious. You're my only woman. The identity of M.O. Jingshin's wife is also unique to you. What else do you want to say? His tone carried a hint of a smile. Jean Wan was choked for a moment. This man's words always hit the nail on the head. There were no loopholes for her to retaliate. There were many things she wanted to say. She could not mention the things that had happened in her previous life and forced herself not to think about them. After all, she had not participated in those 10 years. Regardless of who M.O. Jingshan was with, which woman he married, or whether he really kept Ji Min Gran by his side, she had no right to ask about these things in her previous life. She wanted to ask why he chose her when he had so many choices before getting married. In his eyes, and Shu Yan was nothing special. He could ignore her, and reject her. But with M.O. Jingshin's personality, although the M.O. family was powerful, they had no way of controlling M.O. Jingshin's life and decisions. Why did he not reject the Ji family's marriage? Why didn't he reject her? In the past, he had rejected in Shu Yan and many other socialites because of whom. Half a year ago, he had coincidentally accepted the M.O. family's arrangement at that time. Jean Wan calmly suppressed the various thoughts in her heart, but her heart felt like it had been knocked over. He really wanted to ask. In fact, he wanted to ask too many questions. She had not participated in M.O. Jingshin's past and future for the past 10 years. She only felt that it was strange and even unreachable. It's already afternoon. I'll go take a look at the studio first. Jean Wan stood up as she spoke, handing the bills on the table to the waiter in the coffee shop. She took her phone and walked out of the coffee shop. You don't have to take Secretary Ann's words seriously. The foundation of marriage is trust. This word suits you. It suits me even more. Don't worry. Don't think too much in. M.O. Jingshan heard her leaving the coffee shop and softly comforted her. Jean Wan softly made an "in" sound and did not say anything more. Don't forget what I promised you. 1 week. Jean Wan's footsteps paused. 1 week. There were only 3 days left from the 1 week he promised to let Shuyin leave the MO Corporation. Was he really going to let Shuyin leave just like that? Although Jinwan felt that she might be making a mountain out of a molehill, when it came to matters of the heart, women really could not tolerate the slightest bit of sand. Bottom lines and principles, she still had to uphold them. All right, she responded. The company will be busy these 2 days. There are many things that I need to personally discuss. There will be an international collaboration dinner the night after tomorrow. It will also be very late. I'll have Andy-chan accompany you. It's fine. I can do it myself. There's no need to call her over. The sky gradually darkened. Jinwan returned to AO Lawn International. When she came out of the study with a notebook she used for work, she was about to return to the bedroom to continue reading. Her gaze swept past the door that had never been opened, and her footsteps paused. There was a sudden knock on the door. Jinwan's gaze moved away from the tightly shut door. Annie-chun? She opened the door and saw that Annie-chun was standing outside with a fresh fish and vegetables. Madam, I didn't disturb you by coming at this time, did I? Annie-chan asked. No, but why would you? Sir asked me to prepare dinner for you, lest you slack off at night and only eat takeout. Annie-chun entered with a smile. After entering, she went into the kitchen to wash her hands. She was so busy that she did not even have time to exchange a few words with Jinwan. When did Mo Jingshin understand her so well? Although she knew how to cook, there was really not much to prepare for dinner alone. Based on her personality, it was likely that she would really order takeout or just not eat at all. Madam, is there anything else you want to eat? Since it's not completely dark yet, I can go buy some other ingredients, Annie-chun said in the kitchen as she busied herself. I'm fine with anything. There's no need to go through so much trouble. Although this is downtown, I'm still not used to the surrounding environment. Earlier, I finally found a nearby vegetable market, but I didn't buy anything else. The things in the big supermarkets are too expensive. I think Madam should go back to the U Garden to live occasionally. Living here every day, even eating is a problem. Annie-chun nagged, full of concern. Jinwan, however, smiled. She really did eat a lot. After all, Boss Missouri had personally fed her. She felt that her face had become rounder these days. Jinwan wanted to go into the kitchen to help, but was pushed out by Annie-chun. She had no choice but to pour a glass of water for Annie-chun and return to the study with the computer. At around 11 o'clock p.m., Mo Jingshin returned to AO Lawn International. Mr. Mo, it's so late. You didn't stay in the company to rest? Annie-chun came out and asked respectfully. Mo Jingshin nodded to Annie-chun and did not say much. Annie-chun suddenly pointed to the study room that was still lit and said softly, Madam has been in the study since dinner. I didn't dare to disturb her. Mo Jingshin walked in and opened the door to find that Jinwan had fallen asleep by the computer. Her arms were on the table, and her head was pillowed on them. Her beautiful brows were slightly furrowed, and it seemed that she was not sleeping well. Chapter 94. When Jinwan woke up, it was already past 7 in the morning. Mo Jingshin's figure was no longer on the bed. She did not remember when she returned to the bedroom last night. Right now, her clothes had been changed into her usual nightgown. It couldn't be that Annie-chun had the strength to carry her in and help her change her clothes, right? Auntie-chun. Jinwan grabbed her slightly messy hair as she walked out. Jingshin came back last night. That's right, madam. Mr. Mo came back very late last night. Mo Jingshin had clearly told her that the company would be busy these few days and had specially asked Annie-chun to accompany her. In the end, he was so busy that he returned to AO Lawn International. She did not know if the distance between Mo Jingshin's heart and hers was close or far. At this moment, Jinwan felt that perhaps she really should not be affected by Secretarian's words. There was no need to think about such things. She was simply worrying over nothing. That's right. Mr. Mo also said that in the future, madam, you must return to the bedroom to sleep before 10. You're not allowed to work so late in the study or stay up late. He also said that I must watch over you. Auntie-chun smiled as she spoke. Her eyes were filled with gratification. She felt that although Sir and Madam did not return to the U Garden to stay, the relationship between husband and wife seemed to be improving. Jinwan scratched her hair again and nodded. I understand. After speaking, she returned to the bathroom in the bedroom to wash up. MO Corporation CEO's office. In front of the clear floor-to-ceiling windows, Mo Jingshin had one hand in his pocket as he listened to Secretary N and Shinmu talk about the project report from America's Shine. After the two finished speaking and left, the office returned to silence. Mo Jingshin remained standing in front of the window without moving. His phone rang. Mo Jingshin picked it up and heard Qin Siding speak with a hint of a smile. I heard that MO Corporation has finally accepted Shine Group's invitation to collaborate with them. They want to develop a large multinational capital chain. It's a rather large project. Do you have any objections? Mo Jingshin's voice was low and indifferent. I'm not interested in your merciless business. Of course, I have no opinion. Qin Siding sneered coldly. But ever since you established the MO Corporation, you never planned to take over the Shine Group in the U.S. Your father is middle-aged but still smart and strong, so he shouldn't be in a hurry to hand over the foundation of the MO family to you. But this time, the MO Corporation and the Shine Group have made such a big move. Let me guess, what's the reason that made you, the young master of the MO family who originally planned to be free and unfettered outside, start to draw on the net step by step? This step was destined to happen sooner or later. When the time is right, what scheme can you come up with? Mo Jingshin's voice was cold. Are you very free? I'm not idle. I'm so busy. Qin Siding snorted. Do you know how difficult the medical environment is now? I stay in the consulting room and the operating theater all day, facing all the distressed patients, controlling the life and death of the scalpel. I'm afraid the pressure is even greater than you, the CEO. Mo Jingshin's voice was low and cold. You choose your own path. If you want to practice medicine and save the world, no one is forcing you to do it. Who would have guessed that the young master of the Qin family chose medical school because he was tricked into it by a little girl? In the end, that girl left so heartlessly and decisively, leaving you in the abyss of bitterness for so many years without being able to struggle out. The other side of the phone was silent for more than 10 seconds. Suddenly, the sound of Qin Siding throwing a medical record on the table could be heard. Nan Heng and I exist just to be mocked by you. Every day, we watch you and Jin Wan show off your love. Not only do we eat dog food until we're full, we also have to be poked by you until we can't stop the bleeding for 10,000 years, right? Mo Jingshin indifferently snorted. You asked for it. Qin Siding released a mocking laugh. I'll see you when you taste the feeling of being kicked by your own woman. And when you can't even find her, Nan Heng and I will definitely return these 3 words to you. 3 words, 3 knives, 1 knife at a time, stabbing into your heart. You're becoming less and less like a physician. Then what do I look like? Psychiatry suits you. All right, when you're kicked by Jin Wan, the first patient I'll accept in the psychiatry department will be you. Qin Siding sneered. All right, I'll be serious with you. Recently, the Sheng family hasn't been peaceful. The 2 successors have basically been crippled. The illegitimate son who has been away for so many years is most likely going to completely change the sky of the Sheng family when he returns. I only found out now that the Sheng family's illegitimate son is actually in the same line of work as me. Last year, we even met at the provincial medical conference. He really hid himself deeply. Mo Jingshin was not surprised. His tone was indifferent and cold. A knife operator who can easily cut apart 206 bones in a human body without leaving any flesh behind, killing his way into the business world, is not something worth celebrating. TSK, since you know, I won't share this news with you. Qin Siding's laughter was cold. However, you should be careful of this kind of person who is good at hiding. After all, I also just found out that he has quite a deep relationship with Jin Wan. As soon as Qin Siding finished speaking, Mo Jingshin hung up the phone mercilessly. Qin Siding, the next day, when Jin Wan woke up, she still did not see Mo Jingshin. Annie Chan said that he still returned very late and left very early. She directly drove to Mo Wan's studio. In the past few days, she had already shaved away most of the people in the studio. Those who remained were all silent out of fear. However, Not everyone was afraid of her. After all, there were still some people who were waiting for her studio to close down, waiting to see her make a fool of herself. There were even people who harbored evil intentions. After returning from a studio, she went to Xia Tian's place. Unsurprisingly, she bumped into Dr. Sheng. The new ward you've arranged for Xia Tian is not bad. The environment and security are many times better than the previous one. Jin Wan's words were considered a greeting, but her tone was very distant. Dr. Sheng coldly glanced at her. I really couldn't tell that you care more about your friend than your own little sister. My own little sister? Jin Wan smiled faintly. Perhaps you don't know, but to me, Xia Tian and my so-called little sister, the roles they play in my life are as different as heaven and earth. Dr. Sheng's cold brows did not move. He only stared at her for a moment, his voice low and cold. In your life, what role do I play? Jin Wan coldly looked at him and did not speak. Dr. Sheng had long guessed that she would refuse to answer. He removed his mask and placed it in the pocket of his white coat. His expression was stern. I've already fulfilled the request you made a few days ago. Tomorrow night, I'll be representing the Sheng family to attend a banquet. If you want to cut all ties with me, why don't you agree to a condition of mine? Jin Wan faintly furrowed her brows. What condition? Chapter 95. Why should I promise you? The one who feels guilty is you, not me. Jin Wan stared at him coldly. The man in front of her smiled faintly, his lips curving into a strange curve. Do you really think that Mo Jingshin doesn't know about our relationship? Don't you want to get rid of everything related to me? I don't need to explain my conditions to you. Jin Wan really wanted to smash the bag in her hand into his face. She suppressed her anger, coldly asking, since I'm representing the Sheng family to attend the banquet, why do you want me to go? It has to be you. Why me? You'll know once you go. His lips curved slightly, his smile cold. He did not explain further, nor did he wait for Jin Wan's agreement or rejection. He put on the surgical mask again and entered the ward next door. Jin Wan lowered her eyes to look at the floor covered in the smell of disinfectant and fell into deep thought. Jin Wan could not sleep for the entire night just because of a banquet she did not even know the reason for. She thought that she would finally be able to see Mo Jingshin when he returned tonight. In the end, when she finally fell asleep at 2 a.m., she did not see him return. The next day, she slept until noon. Perhaps because she did not sleep well, her head hurt slightly. After showering, she changed her clothes and prepared to leave. However, the moment she reached the studio, she saw a silver-white car parked there. The car window rolled down, revealing the man's face. Although he was handsome, because he rarely walked outside, he lacked the moisture of sunlight and often wore a surgical mask. As a result, he appeared slightly paler than the average good-looking man. Jin Wan furrowed her brows, her gaze unhappy. How did you know I would come here? The expression of the man in the car did not change. He remained indifferent and cold. He glanced at Jin Wan's business-like attire, and an incomprehensible coldness and melancholy appeared in his eyes. Little girl, you've really grown up. Dr. Sheng. Jin Wan coldly stood by the car door. Don't tell me that you've always been clear about my whereabouts. If that's the case, I'm afraid I'll call the police. The man watched her. Tonight, you're my female companion. Aren't the 3 words Dr. Sheng a little too unfamiliar? Jin Wan's smile was cold, and her words were full of sarcasm. Sheng Yihan. When Xing Yihan heard this form of address that he hadn't heard for a long time, his pale lips curled up slightly, but it was only for a moment before it disappeared. Yesterday, I didn't agree to attend that dinner with you. After a night of consideration, my answer is still that I won't go. Jin Wan finished speaking and turned to leave without looking at him. However, just as he turned around, his vision suddenly darkened, and he almost stumbled forward. She hurriedly raised her hand to support herself against the street lamp beside her to barely stand. This morning, he had a headache. Perhaps it was because of the bone-chilling autumn wind, the cold rain, and the cold air from the north. The autumn wind made people's headaches. The car door behind her opened, and her arm was immediately supported. She did not need to think to know who it was. A layer of goosebumps covered her body, and she flung the person behind her away as though she had been electrocuted. "Don't touch me." Sheng Yihan ignored her temper and reached out to hold her wrist. "What's going on? Are you not feeling well? Mind your own business." Jinwan could not even be bothered to look at him. Seeing her resistance, Sheng Yihan let go of her. Seeing Jinwan leaning against the street lamp, her expression did not look good. He said in an irresistible tone, "Go to the hospital." Jinwan was about to say no, take a deep breath, and try to stand firm when her wrist was suddenly tightened. The man beside her pulled her to the car, opened the door, and pressed her in. "What are you doing? You've had a cold body since you were a child. Don't you know it? Go to the hospital." Sheng Yihan directly locked the car door, not giving her a chance to get out. When he also sat in the car, Jinwan coldly snorted. "Why do I have a cold body? Don't you know better than me? It's all because of you." Sheng Yihan's hand that had just reached for the steering wheel instantly tightened. His expression did not look good. He coldly said nothing, started the engine, and drove. She could not resist, and she did not have the strength to resist. Jinwan simply leaned against the back of the seat. At first, she was highly focused on guarding against him, but the temperature in the car was moderate, and her head was uncomfortable. Unconsciously, she gradually closed her eyes. She didn't know how long she slept. It was not until Jinwan felt her neck sore and painful that she slowly opened her eyes. The interior of the car was no longer as bright as it was during the day. She was still sleeping in the car, wearing a man's coat. The scent of medicine and disinfectant carried a faint smell. She froze, and very sensitively, she forcefully tore off the coat and threw it to the side. She sat up straight, looked up, and saw that the lights were already on outside the car window. She didn't know where the car was parked. There were many cars passing by, and it seemed that the car had been parked in this parking space for a long time. She turned to see Sheng Yihan sitting in the driver's seat. Because she woke up, he directly turned his eyes to her, and she couldn't tell whether he was happy or angry. His cold eyes fell on her face. It was very dark in the car, but it was not difficult to see each other's expressions. Jinwan frowned. "Didn't you say you would send me to the hospital? Where's this?" "We've been to the hospital. You slept too deeply," Sheng Yihan said indifferently. "Your physique and resistance are not up to standard, and you're afraid of the cold. The colder the weather, the more you need to wear. Doesn't Mo Jingshin even care about these things?" How could he not care? Mo Jingshin could not wait for her to dress like a bear every day before going out. If she wore any less, his gaze would be able to freeze her. However, there was no need to explain this to him. Jinwan did not speak, only looking out the car window. She felt that this place seemed to be near a certain high-class hotel in High City. She looked up again. King's Court Hotel. Yesterday, Sheng Yihan had asked her to accompany him to a hotel in High City to attend a dinner party. Was it here? I've said it before. I won't go to any dinner party that has nothing to do with me. Why did you bring me here? Jinwan said indifferently, reaching out to open the car door. Seeing that the car door could not be opened, she turned to look at him coldly. Sheng Yihan, you're still as despicable as before. Open the door. Sheng Yihan appeared as though he did not hear her words. He indifferently glanced at the passing cars, his tone calm. The dress I prepared for you is in the back. Go change. I'm not changing. Jinwan glared at him. Open the door. He appeared as though he did not hear her, ignoring her rejection. He opened the car door on his side and got out, indicating that he wanted her to change alone in the car. Chapter 96. Jinwan directly took out her phone to call the police. From the corner of her eyes, she suddenly saw a black limousine parked in front of the hotel. Two figures walked out, and her fingers on her phone paused. When she saw the two figures clearly, Jinwan's expression changed. It was Mo Jingshin and Shuyan. A few days ago, Mo Jingshin had indeed told her over the phone that he would be attending a dinner tonight. Why would he appear here with Shuyan? So, they were attending the same dinner? From afar, she saw the two of them alight at the same time. Today, Shuyan was dressed beautifully. She wore a white strapless gown. When they entered the hotel, and Shu Yin, who followed closely by Mo Jingshan's side, suddenly raised her hand and held onto his arm. Jin Wan's mind instinctively reacted. That was, Mo Jingshan would definitely push her away. However, Mo Jingshan did not push her away. Jin Wan's heart was instantly pounded harshly. Her hand paused on the car window and did not move for a long time. The other side of the car window was suddenly knocked twice. The door was opened. Sheng Yihan looked at her, asking softly, "Are you sure you're not going in?" Jin Wan turned her head. Some emotions flashed across her eyes, but they were well concealed. She wanted to ask him why he brought her here. However, when the words reached her lips, she felt that based on his personality, the answer he gave her might not be the truth. She might as well go see for herself. "Close the door. I'm changing," she angrily reprimanded. Sheng Yihan's lips curled into an imperceptible cold smile. The car door was closed again. As if to reassure her, he left the electronic car key in the car, giving her a chance to open the door and come out by herself after changing the car. Was he certain that she would not run away again? Jin Wan secretly gritted her teeth. She reached out and took the bag from the back seat. She opened it and saw that it was a high-end box containing the gown. She impatiently opened it. 10 minutes later, Jin Wan alighted from the car. "Do you think I'm still a teenage girl? It's actually a pink gown, and the hem is decorated with all kinds of feathers. I really wonder if you deliberately brought me to this kind of place to embarrass me," she complained with an unpleasant expression. Sheng Yihan took a look at her, and there was a flash of amazement in his cold eyes. Although Jin Wan used to attend all kinds of banquets with her father, he had to admit that Jin Wan's beauty was very low-key and gentle. It was not aggressive or lethal, but as long as she dressed up a little, her natural beauty was more attractive to men than her lethal beauty. "You're only 20. Why can't you wear pink?" Sheng Yihan walked away from the car, his tone still cold, but when Jin Wan glanced at the hotel with a dark expression, he casually said to her, "Very beautiful. Who would make a fool of themselves in such a place?" "You won't make a fool of yourself. After all, you win in appearance." This man, Sheng Yihan, was so annoying even when he was saying nice things. Jin Wan didn't look at him. Fortunately, the length of the dress was just below her feet and could cover her flat shoes. There was a new pair of high heels and a bag under the back seat, but she didn't wear them. She was really not in the mood to wear them. "You didn't change your shoes?" He noticed that her height didn't change and asked, "Didn't you say I win in appearance?" Jin Wan retorted coldly. Sheng Yihan didn't speak anymore, but glanced at her dress again. She was more than 6 meters tall and had a slender figure. Her tight fit was perfect. Wearing such a dress, the length was just right. She really didn't need to wear a pair of heels that were more than 10 centimeters tall to look tall and slender like other women. He turned to the hotel, and Jin Wan followed. As she walked, she simply used a rubber band to tie up her long hair, which was scattered on her shoulders and back, into a slightly fluffy bun on the top of her head. Then, she walked in with a plain face. Before entering the main entrance of the hotel, Sheng Yihan noticed that she was dressed simply for this kind of dinner party and said meaningfully, "I really didn't expect that the Ji family's eldest miss would one day be so crude." Crude? Jin Wan held back a smile as she looked at the well-dressed people inside. Anyone who had gone through 10 years of hardship would not be able to be refined. Could it be that she would have to call a stylist to come over and style her before going in? If it was the Jin Wan of the past, perhaps she would have done so. She didn't explain, and after entering, she didn't plan to get too close to Sheng Yihan. King's Court Hotel was the largest 7-star hotel in Haicheng. There were already many people in the luxurious banquet hall, and there were many people dressed in fragrant clothes. Famous politicians and businessmen stood in groups of 3 to 5, raising wine glasses and toasting. It was so lively that Jin Wan was deeply suspicious. With such a grand scene, just what kind of dinner party was this? Jin Wan noticed that there were many guests speaking with American English accents in the banquet hall. From their English conversation, she could vaguely tell that they were the senior executives and important members of the Shine Group. And tonight, Shine Group officially signed a contract with the MO Corporation for an international cooperation project. Recently, Mo Jingshen had indeed been busy with this matter. After listening for a while, Jinwan noticed Sheng Yihan's gaze on her and had no choice but to follow him inside. Several people were conversing, and their voices landed in her ears. Shine Group was founded in Haicheng. After moving its headquarters to America more than 10 years ago, I didn't expect that the first international cooperation with a domestic company would actually be with the MO Corporation. No matter how you look at it, it's still our home. As expected, we should keep the goodies within our own fields. I heard that Director MO will also be here tonight. It's been many years since Director MO returned to Haicheng, right? The company headquarters in America needs him to oversee it. It's really been hard on him these past few years. Isn't that so? I heard that when CEO MO got married half a year ago, Director MO couldn't even find time to return to attend the wedding. He didn't even get to see his daughter-in-law. His sudden return this time is really sudden. Jean Wan's heart was filled with an indescribable sense of unease. Director Mo Jingshen's father, Mo Shaoza. She continued walking in. All of a sudden, from the corner of her eyes, she saw a tall and familiar figure. Jean Wan turned to look in that direction. That person, that face. It was Mo Jingshen, that handsome face that caused one's hair to stand on end. He walked to the center of the banquet hall from the other side. The light and shadows disappeared, and his figure and appearance became clear inch by inch. He had cool and handsome brows, a high-nose bridge, and light lips. His facial features were like the work of God, perfect and impeccable. His cold lips were curved in an extremely bland and emotionless curve. Black trousers wrapped around his long and straight legs, without a trace of unkempt. Similarly, he wore a black, handmade shirt that was expensive. The moment he appeared, he did not need to speak to immediately attract everyone's attention. Handsome and cold, bland and calm, as well as an unparalleled aloofness. Chapter 97. Mo Jingshen's expression was indifferent. It was impossible to discern his emotions, and he did not respond. However, Shuyan still stood very close to him, tightly pressed against him. She was originally wearing a low-cut gown, elegant and sexy. She pressed against his arm as they walked into the crowd, and Shuyan was clearly familiar with many of the people present. She greeted them with a smile and occasionally glanced gently at Mo Jingshen, causing everyone who saw this scene to unavoidably overthink things. Mo Jingshen's eyes were wide open. Jean Wan stared in that direction. All of a sudden, Sheng Yihan stood by her side and handed her a glass of champagne. At the same time, he said in a voice only she could hear, "Tonight's theme has nothing to do with the Sheng family. However, my father has always been very interested in America's Shine Group's recent projects and asked me to investigate." Sheng Yihan's voice was indifferent, making it difficult to detect his emotions. Shine's foundation is in the Mo family, and it has been developing in America for many years. Its power and wealth cannot be underestimated, especially Shine's current chairman, Mo Shaoza. It is said that he is an extremely stubborn person. The daughter-in-law he has taken a liking to is clearly the one by Mo Jingshen's side. Jean Wan forced herself to retract her gaze. She said unconcernedly, "This is a gathering place for the upper class, and it's a dinner with Shine as its theme. There's nothing wrong with him bringing Secretarian along. After all, this Secretarian came for Shine. Is that so?" Sheng Yihan took a sip of champagne, chuckling meaningfully by her ear. Mo Shaoza hasn't returned to the country for many years. It's rare for him to come back. Tonight, many of the Mo family's people will be gathered here. As the rightful granddaughter-in-law of the Mo family, you were not invited. Even Mo Jingshen himself did not plan on bringing you along. Regardless of whether it's because of Shine's cooperation project or some other reason, in an occasion like tonight, his choice is definitely not you. Jean Wan's grip on the glass tightened. She then coldly glanced at Sheng Yihan. Jean Wan turned back and looked in that direction. However, she did not make a sound. Even as the crowd walked over, she remained where she was and did not approach. "You're not going?" Sheng Yihan coldly reminded. Jean Wan's expression was not very good. Hearing the voice by her side, She smiled indifferently and pretended to be relaxed. What for? There are too many people and I can't breathe. This place is pretty good. As she spoke, she finished the wine in the glass in one gulp and threw the glass into Shang Yihan's arms. Without even looking at his expression, she casually picked up another glass of wine from the long table in the corner. She could feel that although Shang Yihan's tone was mocking her, as if the more unhappy she was in this marriage, the happier he would be. But in fact, most of his attention was on everyone present. She knew very well how good Shang Yihan was at hiding and how meticulous his thoughts were. Many years ago, it was clear what kind of dangerous person he was. He was deeply hidden, had astonishing patience, and was also a strategist. But right now, she was really not in the mood to care about him. She had not planned to attend this banquet. If she had not seen Mo Jingshin, she would never have come in. But now, she suspected that she was wrong to come here. She really shouldn't have come. The cocktail in her mouth was a little sweet, but the alcohol content was obviously a little higher than the glass of champagne just now. She only took a sip and frowned. She looked down at the colorful liquid in the cup. There were some ice cubes that had not melted yet in the cup, so it was very cold. It was good for calming her burning heart. After drinking 3 or 4 glasses in a row, she saw many people of the Mo family were also present. She was not familiar with the people of Shine Group, but the Mo family was very familiar with her. Jinwan tried to keep herself in the dark in the corner so as not to be discovered. And from this distance, because the crowd was in front of her, she could no longer see what was going on with Mo Jingshin. She looked back at the front door of the hotel, where several relatives and friends of the Mo family were talking, and there were security guards at the door. If she left now, she would only attract attention. Shang Yihan. Because Jinwan had drunk some wine and was not good at drinking, her eyes were a little red. Although it was not obvious, the people around her could still see it. Shang Yihan lowered his eyes to look at her, staring into her eyes. Jinwan looked at him and said with a cold and mocking smile, "Although you haven't been in the Shang family for so many years, you have long been preparing to return, haven't you? Enduring humiliation to bear the burden, enduring hardships to gain courage. You're really something, ah." The man did not speak, but his lips curved imperceptibly and coldly, looking into her slightly red eyes. "Your appetite is not small. You even have ideas about Shine and the Mo Corporation. Aren't you afraid of eating too much and being swallowed back?" Jinwan coldly glanced at him, the mockery in her eyes deepening. Shang Yihan's eyes gradually revealed an obvious sneer. What can be more terrible than being swallowed back by love? I can even endure this kind of pain. What is there to be afraid of? Jinwan's expression did not change, but the coldness in her eyes deepened. It was as if she could see the scene of that young man being rejected by the Shang family many years ago. After his mother married into the Ji family, he was expelled from the Ji family because of her, the eldest daughter of the Ji family. That young man's eyes were deep and profound when he finally looked at her. She coldly curved her lips and picked up another glass of wine, casually leaning against the table behind her, saying coldly, "That's your self-righteous love. It has nothing to do with me." Shang Yihan only mildly curved his lips. Looking at her, he reached out and gently brushed past her cheeks that were slightly warm from the alcohol. Jinwan instantly turned her face away in disgust and then coldly looked at him. "What are you doing? The first time I saw you, you were still the high and mighty young lady of the Ji family. Like a princess who despised everyone, you walked through the dazzling banquet hall. Then, behind your father's back, you hid in a corner and secretly tasted the wine. In the end, you got drunk and slept in a corner. Your face is red as an apple. I went to carry you out, but you bit me." Jinwan unconcernedly moved the glass away from her lips, coldly saying, "If it were now, I definitely wouldn't have bitten you. After all, you're too dirty." Her gaze was cold and sharp, and her words did not leave him any face. Jinwan did not wish to continue this topic. Although the alcohol content of the wine at the banquet was not particularly high, she really could not hold her liquor. Furthermore, her mood was slightly affected, and she drank several types of wine mixed together. The headache she had during the day came again. Chapter 98. She turned around and quickly walked to another corner of the corridor that led to the washroom. A few people were discussing nearby. As expected, and Shuyan really returned to the country for President Mo. Only President Mo could make this precious daughter of the family fly over from so far away. This and Shuyan is the best candidate for a daughter-in-law on Director Mo's side. They're a perfect match. I really don't know what Grandfather Mo was thinking. He actually let a woman whose name I've never even heard of enter the Mo family. No. That Jin Wan is quite famous in Hai Cheng's upper-class society. Her family background isn't bad, and it's said that she's very beautiful. I thought that I would be able to clearly see what kind of foxy beauty that Jin Wan actually has the ability to push aside so many young ladies from all over the country to marry into the Mo family. In the end, who would have thought that she didn't come? She's smart not to be here today. In today's situation, Director Mo definitely won't give her any face. Who knows? He might even find a way to teach her a lesson in front of everyone. As the CEO of Shine Group, he's basically the true ruler of the Mo family. If he wants to keep Shuyan in the Mo family, today is the best time to make sure that Jin Wan doesn't get away scot-free. She definitely won't get any good results by coming here. That's true. Although a lot of people from the Mo family are here today, Grandfather Mo is not here. If Chairman Mo really wants to kick Jin Wan away, he has thousands of reasons to make her come in smiling and go out crying. Even if CEO Mo can protect her, he still has to consider the family's face. This dilemma is really difficult for CEO Mo. What's there to be troubled about? According to President Mo's usual style of doing things, if he really wanted to protect his current wife, even if the heavens were present today, he wouldn't care. Did you really think that Director Mo could suppress him? This is the true strength of this father and son. It's just that they haven't had a direct confrontation yet. So what if that Jin Wan is beautiful? Although beauty is alluring, you'll still get tired of it after a while. I think he most likely has some interest in Shuyan. Otherwise, he wouldn't have given Shuyan so much face and chosen her to be his female companion. Yes, President Mo has given the family a lot of face today. Could it be that the Mo and families would really come to an end? Then I'll be waiting to see what happens. Do you want to make a bet? I bet that Jin Wan will definitely be kicked out of the Mo family soon, and Shuyan will naturally become Mrs. Mo. A rational person like President Mo would definitely make the wisest choice. After all, the family is supporting him in the U.S. As long as he marries Shuyan, it is equivalent to controlling half of the Chinese economy in the U.S. This will be more beneficial for President Mo when he takes over Shine Group in the future. With this kind of gambling method, why don't you just rob me? Do you think Jin Wan will be able to sit firmly in Mrs. Mo's position? Isn't he just waiting to lose? Jin Wan's headache worsened. She raised her hand to support herself against the wall. She really could not listen to him anymore. She expressionlessly turned and walked into the corridor. There was no one in the bathroom. She turned on the water and washed her face to wake herself up. Inside the banquet hall, Mo Xiaoza was chatting with people because he had just returned. Suddenly, a figure approached and whispered a few words in his ear. Director Mo, earlier on, we saw that person from the G family. The expression on Mo Xiaoza's face changed slightly, but it was fleeting. He looked at the people beside him without batting an eyelid and said coldly in a voice that only they could hear, "She sure has the guts to come. Lock her inside and don't let her out until the banquet is over." After finishing his words, Mo Xiaoza turned his eyes, looking thoughtfully at Mo Jingshan, who was currently surrounded by several Shine Group executives on the red carpet with Shuyan. CEO Mo, Uncle Mo, and my father seem to have finished chatting with the other elders. They're already walking toward us, and Shuyan softly said by Mo Jingshan's side. Mo Jingshan appeared as though he did not hear her words. He received a glass of wine from a waiter by the side, smiling mildly as he conversed with others. His true emotions could not be seen from his brows, but it caused Shuyan to feel as though he was completely ignoring her. It was a taboo that she could not fathom his thoughts. And Shuyan's father and Mo Shaoza had already approached. And Shuyan gently tugged on Mo Jingshan's arm, but in reality, she could only tug on his sleeve. From the beginning to the end, although the two of them entered the banquet together, she was the one who took the initiative to hold on to him and stick to him. Not only did he not give her any response, but whenever there was any physical contact, even if it was just a touch of his hand, he did not give her the chance. Imperceptibly, he maintained an appropriate distance. In the eyes of others, this scene appeared very harmonious. Only Shuyan knew the distance between her and Mo Jingshan. Jingshan, after Shuyan arrived in Haicheng, it's all thanks to your care. If it weren't for her following you, as her father, I would have long flown over to check on her condition because she's been away for too long. Father chuckled. With Shuyan by your side, I can still rest assured. Mo Jingshan appeared to have only just noticed the person approaching. He held a glass of wine in his hand, clinking it with Father Anne's. He smiled elegantly and mildly. Uncle An, you're too polite. Shuyan has been spoiled rotten by us in America. She should still have a stubborn temper. It's rare for you to give me this face. Father An was in high spirits. From what I can see, although Haicheng's Mo Corporation has only been developing for a few years, it is truly a dark horse in the financial and technology industry. If it continues to develop like this, I estimate that in less than 10 years, it will be able to surpass Shine Group, which has a foundation of nearly 100 years. Father An smiled as he spoke to Mo Shaoza by his side. Youngsters these days are all extraordinary, especially Jingshan. He hasn't even reached 30 years of age, but his achievements are already extraordinary. To have such a son, it really makes one extremely envious. You're too kind. Mo Jingshan's true emotions were hard to discern. His face was calm and light with a smile. Even if I cultivate for another few decades, I'm afraid I won't be able to compare to even a 10,000th of Uncle Anne's. Father An laughed, clinking his glass with him again. He then watched as his daughter continued to stand by Mo Jingshan's side, her smile dignified and magnanimous. They were truly a perfect match. Earlier, Jinwan had drunk some wine. After standing in the bathroom for a long time, she chose to open a door and enter. She sat on the toilet for a while and took out her phone to look at the time. She then discovered that there was no signal in the bathroom. After a while, he suddenly heard some movement coming from outside. It was a rustling sound. Chapter 99. Jinwan's entire body trembled. In the darkness and slightly damp bathroom, the surroundings were quiet and empty. She could vaguely hear the sound of water dripping. In the darkness, drop by drop, it caused one's heart to tremble. Also, what was that sound outside? It seemed to be very close. There was a sneaky movement. Jinwan reached out to push the door open, but was surprised to find that the door could not be opened. Every single door in the bathroom could only be locked from the inside. The lock had already been opened by her. How could it be that the door could not be opened? A sense of unease suddenly rose in her heart. She raised her hand and knocked hard on the door, yelling, "Is anyone there?" It was impossible for the lights to break so coincidentally. The King's Court Hotel was a top-notch, high-class place, and it was hosting VIPs from America tonight. The staff here would definitely check every corner properly. There could not be a single mistake. Furthermore, the door was obviously locked from the outside. This could only mean that it was done by someone. Who exactly was it? Sheng Yihan definitely could not have done this. Bringing her here and then locking her up was contradictory. There was no motive, so it could not be him. Earlier, she had been hiding in the shadows in the banquet hall and did not meet anyone from the Mo family. No one should have noticed her, nor did she meet anyone who had a grudge with her. To be able to do such a thing in the heavily guarded King's Court Hotel, it was definitely not simple. There were no windows in the bathroom, and the surroundings were well sealed. As the lights went out, the air conditioner also stopped working. The power should have been cut off. Jinwan's body had not been feeling well today. She did not know how long she would be locked up here. Earlier, she had shouted so loudly, but no one had approached. It was likely that no one had heard her. She gradually took a step back, closing the toilet lid and sitting on it to conserve her energy. She picked up her phone. The light on the screen gave her some sense of security. She was brought here too suddenly by Shang Yihan. She did not have time to charge her phone. Right now, it only had 4% battery. There was no signal, and the battery was almost out. She repeatedly turned on her phone, watching the time pass, until the phone screen automatically darkened. At the banquet, Mo Jingxin and Mo Xiaoza chatted for a while. At this moment, and Shuyan had already been called to the side by Father In. The father and daughter conversed softly. Not long after, Father In and Shuyan came back. Mo Jingxin turned around, his voice heavy as he spoke to Father In. I remember that when Shu Yin was young, she was engaged to the eldest son of the Wilson family. Later on, because their family moved to England, they never mentioned this matter again. The smiles on Father and in Shu Yan's faces instantly froze. Mo Jingxin smiled mildly. Now that the Weizhen family has returned to America and has an inseparable relationship with the In family's company, Shu Yin and Mr. Weizhen's eldest son has yet to marry, and there aren't any suitable candidates by his side. In my opinion, why don't our Mo family act as the matchmaker and facilitate the marriage between the two families? And Shu Yin's complexion was slightly pale. She stared in disbelief at the composed Mo Jingxin. As Mo Jingxin spoke, Mr. Weizhen, who was also present today, stood by the side. Hearing his words, he turned around and laughed in not very fluent Chinese. Haha, that engagement was set on Miss N's 5th birthday. After so many years, Mr. must be forgetful and unwilling to let his daughter marry too early, so I didn't bring it up again. And Shu Yin was silent for less than a second before speaking up. Uncle Weizhen, I read that Shu Yin is currently at a suitable age for marriage. Mr. Weizhen's family also lives with the In family in New York. Even if she marries over, she won't be too far from home. Mo Jingxin's gaze was deep, and his face held a perfect smile that no one could find fault with. He interrupted her words. I heard that when the engagement was first set, New York's mayor was also present. Right now, the other party is already a high-ranking official in New York. If he were to personally host Shu Yan's wedding, it would really be the best. Father In furrowed his brows, concealing the flash of displeasure in his eyes. This matter has already been going on for 20 years. The Weizhen family and the In family have been friends for 20 years. Not only are we business partners, but the elders are also close friends. Isn't it appropriate to arrange the marriage as soon as possible? Mo Jingxin smiled, turning to look at Mr. Weizhen, who had already entered the conversation. Mr. Weizhen clinked his glass with Mo Jingxin's, speaking politely in not very fluent Chinese. Miss N is really too outstanding. If she can really marry over, of course we'll be honored, but we're afraid that it will be hard on Miss N. After all, our family has been through a lot in England a few years ago, and it's not as good as before. And Shu Yin bit her lip hard. Her gaze moved from the smiling Mr. Weizhen's face to Mo Jingxin's. Mo Jingxin's every word rendered her speechless. Furthermore, Mr. Weizhen's emotions had already been stirred up by him. Right now, if she were to say a single word of rejection, she would offend the Weizhen family. Right now, Mr. Weizhen's hesitant attitude showed that he clearly wanted her to marry over, yet he was purposely lowering his stance. Mr. Weizhen, you're really being too humble. Your words not as good as before. How many financial tycoons will be unable to raise their heads? Mo Jingxin appeared to be unintentionally leading the conversation. He smiled lightly. When Shu Yin was young, she came to Haicheng and temporarily stayed with the Mo family. However, because she was not acclimatized, she was brought back to America for treatment. I noticed that she seemed to have lost a lot of weight recently. I'm guessing that she's still unable to adapt to life in the country. CEO, Mo, and Shu Yin opened her mouth. Mo Jingxin smiled mildly at her. I know that your thoughts are all on your career, but you've indeed reached the age where you should get married. After the contract is signed, the two of you can head back to America together. Once the wedding is confirmed, remember to inform me. And Shu Yin's expression turned paler and paler. She stared at him, her slender fingers tightly gripping her skirt. Under this man's calm and smiling gaze, there was too much shrewdness hidden, causing one to be caught unprepared. Right now, and Shuyan's father's expression was extremely ugly. However, due to the fact that Mo Jingshin had given in Shuyan and the family enough face today, his words were also impeccable. It really left one with nowhere to vent their anger, much less any reason to vent it. Mo Shaoza furrowed his brows, coldly watching everything. In his heart, he knew that his own son had turned the tables on him. He was already extremely unhappy. No wonder Mo Jingshin was so cooperative. He only had one goal tonight, and that was to send in Shuyan back to America. He also wanted to pair in Shuyan up with the others. Chapter 100. Mo Jingshin's actions seemed to have sealed off in Shuyan's path of retreat without batting an eyelid. Such a reversal happened in the blink of an eye. No one had expected it, nor were they prepared for it. Just like that, she was pushed away by Mo Jingshin. Following that, Mo Jingshin casually chatted with Mr. Wazin for a while, recommending a friend he had in America who specialized in wedding ideas. It was clear that this matter had already been decided. Father wanted to say something, but Mo Jingshin had already softly chatted with a local Hai Chung company manager behind him, ending the previous topic. And Shuyan secretly pinched her skirt. Because Mr. Wazin was by her side, she could not display too much negative emotions. She forced herself to say calmly, "I'm not feeling too well. I'm going to the restroom." As she spoke, she turned and quickly walked toward the restroom. In the end, when she approached the corridor leading to the restroom, she saw that it was dark inside. She then saw the bodyguard who often followed by Uncle Mo's side, standing nearby. The bodyguard turned back to look at her and signaled for her to leave with his eyes. And Shuyan stared at the darkness inside, then looked in the direction of the female restroom. Strangely, she seemed to have guessed something. Her footsteps paused for a moment before she slowly retreated and turned to walk away. It was only when Shuyan's footsteps staggered in another direction from the back of the crowd that Mo Jingshin raised his eyes and noticed a flash of nervousness on her face. Although she hid it well, he could still sense that something was amiss. Right now, Shuyan's hands and feet were cold. Her eyes were dim as she followed the staff down to the second floor. From the day Mo Jingshin told her to leave the Mo Corporation in 4 days, she knew that once he made up his mind, there would be no turning back. Originally, she had wanted to take advantage of the cooperation with Shine Group to stay by his side for a while longer. However, she didn't expect that the reason he asked her to be his female companion today was to give face to the family before he mercilessly chased her back to the United States, leaving her father and Uncle Mo speechless. And Shuyan stood by the railing on the second floor, avoiding the crowd's gaze. She picked up her phone and called Mo Jingshin. She could not return to America like this. Everything that had happened tonight meant that if she returned, it would be difficult for her to get close to him again. Mo Jingshin looked at the caller ID and did not pick it up. When the phone stopped vibrating, there were no more calls. The phone fell silent. Mo Jingshin raised his eyes. Because of Shuyan's earlier nervous expression, he thoughtfully scanned the entire banquet hall. Suddenly, his phone vibrated again. This time, it was Annie Chen calling. Mo Jingshin's brows moved as he picked up the call. "Mr. Mo, did Madam go to your company tonight?" Auntie Chun sounded worried. "She didn't go back." "No, it's already so late, and Madam hasn't come back yet. I thought she might have gone to your company to look for you. Her phone is still turned off, and I haven't been able to contact her." And Mo Jingshin's gaze quickly scanned the area. His gaze was deep, and it was hard to tell if he was happy or angry. At this moment, a staff member in the banquet hall suddenly reminded, "Distinguished guests, I'm really sorry. The washroom in the banquet hall on the first floor has a circuit failure and cannot be used for the time being. Please move to the second floor or other floors later. The washroom on the first floor is currently closed." It was just a reminder from the staff, and it was just a malfunction in the washroom. It didn't affect anything in the banquet hall. The banquet continued. At this moment, Shuyan had already returned. Hearing the staff member's reminder, her gaze shifted in Mo Jingshin's direction. CEO Mo, can we have a chat? I don't want to return to America. She approached him and spoke softly. Mo Jingshun did not look at her. Instead, he indifferently turned around, his gaze fixed in the direction of the washroom. The figure who, because of the staff member's words, had suddenly moved in the opposite direction of the washroom. It was Sheng Yihan, who had unknowingly appeared in the banquet hall, and Shuyan stood in front of him, only to discover that the man's gaze was currently examining her. It was heavy and carried with it an oppressive feeling that caused one to tremble. Mo Jingshin was the type of person who, when one looked at him, would make one involuntarily think of a tree covered in frost when all things were withering in the winter. He stood elegantly in the cold snow, clean, distant, and even cold to the point of being inhuman. However, because he was too good-looking, there was a hint of fickleness to him. However, at this moment, the expression that had always been hidden beneath the high collar of his cultured appearance was no longer as good as before. His lower jaw was slightly taut, and his brows were like the thin snow on the summit of a mountain. It was as though he had torn away the noble and friendly facade of a Vanity Fair, transforming into an icy arrow filled with killing intent. It was as though he would pierce through everything in the next second. And Shuyan subconsciously raised her hand to grab his sleeve, wanting to make him stay by her side. She stared at him and said in a low voice, "Co, Mo, Uncle Mo and my father are calling for you." Mo Jingshin's gaze was frighteningly cold, and Shuyan's brows furrowed, and her grip on his sleeve tightened. "CEO Mo, let go." Mo Jingshin's cold and heavy voice rang out. Without waiting for Shuyan's response, he directly pulled his arm out, expressionlessly heading in the direction Sheng Yihan had left, and Shuyan stood stiffly in her spot. She then rushed to lift her skirt and follow. "COMO, long time no see. I wonder." Someone by the side saw Mo Jingshin and approached to greet him. "Excuse me." Mo Jingshin did not turn back and directly walked past. His gaze was slightly heavy. "COMO." And Shuyan saw that he was about to walk in that direction and was afraid that what she was worried about and suspected had come true. She rushed to grab his wrist forcefully. Tonight is an important banquet for the MO Corporation and Shine Group. Earlier on, the staff already said that the bathroom on the first floor cannot be used. Right now, there's no one there. However, Mo Jingshin coldly pushed her away, and Shuyan staggered, reaching out to grab his arm to steady herself. The moment she raised her hand, the man had already walked far away. Everyone in the banquet hall looked over because of the commotion. When Mo Xiaoza saw the direction Mo Jingshin was heading toward, his gaze was cold as he heavily slammed the unfinished wine glass in his hand onto the waiter's tray. His brows furrowed harshly. Hearing this, Sheng Yihan turned back. His cold and indifferent gaze met Mo Jingshin's. As their gazes met, it was like the collision of icebergs at the North Pole. Sheng Yihan's footsteps suddenly paused in front of the bathroom door. A pensive expression flashed past his face, and his lips curved in an unfathomable smile. Mo Jingshin approached, his expression indifferent. "It seems like this Mo has not been a good host for tonight's banquet. The hotel's bathroom actually malfunctioned. Why don't Mr. Sheng head to the second floor? This Sheng is untalented. I haven't even officially taken a step into the business world, but CEO Mo has already remembered my name and recognized me at a glance." Sheng Yihan's tone was light and slow, making it difficult for others to hear his emotions. Chapter 101. What happened? Mo Jingshin's sharp, cold gaze shifted from the direction of the dark bathroom to Shuyan by his side. And Shuyan did not expect he would actually ask her. This man's observational skills and thoughts were too meticulous to such a frightening degree. "I'm not sure." And Shuyan knew she could not hide any longer and could only softly say, "Earlier on, I wanted to go to the bathroom, but I felt that this place was not too normal. Just not too normal." Mo Jingshin coldly chuckled. "And Shuyan, do you not wish to return to America safely?" And Shuyan's expression was so stiff that it seemed as though it was about to crack. She lowered her eyes. I'm really not too sure. Mo Jingshun did not pay any more attention to her. His cold gaze once again landed on Sheng Yihan. Sheng Yihan did not plan on wasting any more time. A trace of worry could still be seen in his eyes. He slowly said, Jinwan entered the bathroom 25 minutes ago. She still hasn't come out. The moment his words landed, and Shuyan instinctively reached out to hold onto the man's arm. Before her hands could touch him, Mo Jingshun's figure was already several steps away from her. Seeing that the bathroom door was actually locked, Mo Jingshun's jaw tightened. His Adam's apple moved up and down, and his black eyes were so heavy that it seemed as though they could drip water. The moment the bathroom's heavy alloy door was kicked open, the hot bathroom emitted a wave of dampness due to the lack of air conditioning for a long time. Mo Jingshun's brows furrowed tightly. All the doors in the bathroom were left ajar because there was no one inside. Only the innermost door was tightly shut. Hearing the noise, the hotel staff rushed in with a temporary searchlight. After being glanced at by Mo Jingshun's cold gaze, they rushed forward to help open the door. The moment the door opened, they saw Jean Wan, who was dressed in a pink gown, sitting on the toilet seat. Her head was weakly pressed against the wall, and her hands were by her side. The hair on her forehead was wet with sweat, and her eyes were closed. Her face was as pale as paper, and her lips were completely drained of blood. She had already fallen unconscious, and Shuyan followed behind. Seeing this scene, her brows furrowed. This was because Jean Wan's complexion was frighteningly pale. Why is there still someone in the bathroom? The staff members who were not involved in this matter stood at the side in shock and whispered, How long has he been unconscious? Hurry up and call the doctor. Don't let anything happen to him. Before the staff member had finished speaking, Mo Jingshun had taken off his suit coldly and carried Jean Wan out. She was cold, and her dress was damp from the suffocation. He wrapped half of her body in his suit, which still contained his body heat, and quickly carried her up. The moment he walked out of the restroom, Mo Xiaozi was already standing outside the door with a frosty expression. Xiaosu's coldness flashed across Mo Jingshun's eyes. Without hesitation, he carried Jean Wan and quickly walked past him. When he passed by Shun Mu, who was rushing over, he coldly said, Call Qin's sighting and have him scram over here immediately. Shun Mu was still confused, not knowing what had happened. When he saw Jean Wan's pale face, he rushed to nod. I'll inform Dr. Qin immediately. As soon as he finished speaking, he turned around and saw Sheng Yihan standing at the back of the crowd with a thoughtful look on his face. Shen Mu thought to himself, Isn't there a ready-made doctor in front of me? An orthopedic doctor was still a doctor. However, he did not dare to say these words right now. Otherwise, he would not even know how he died. Even if the most eye-catching people tonight were Shine Group and Mo Xiaozi, the true head of the Mo family, Mo Jingshun's existence in Haicheng could not be ignored. Although he rarely appeared at such banquets and kept a low profile, causing people to be unable to figure out his private life, Mo Jingshun's status in the business world was truly not to be underestimated. Anyone who was involved in the business world, regardless of whether it was in the country or abroad, would definitely pay attention to his every move. Everyone in Haicheng knew that Mo Jingshun's personality was cold and aloof. He was difficult to approach. Aside from his immediate family and friends, no one could easily interact with him. Most people only dared to approach him to exchange pleasantries. To receive a polite smile from him was already considered an honor. A few months ago, there were even rumors that after Mo Jingshun's marriage with the Ji family, he and his new wife, Jean Wan, did not have any relationship. Most insiders believed that he would definitely divorce and marry someone else. However, at this moment, in the bright and resplendent banquet hall, everyone stared at this scene in shock. Mo Jingshun's usual calm and composed expression changed. His brows were cold and threatening. Not only was it rare to see such a clear expression of coldness and anger on his face, they also saw him carrying a woman dressed in a pink gown through the banquet hall with quick steps. Furthermore, this woman was actually the Mrs. M.O. who had been rumored by the media to be thrown into the cold palace. Jinwan. Most of the people present recognized Jinwan's face, which was so beautiful that it could make even the heavens angry. However, her usually bright complexion was currently excessively pale. And Shuyan, who had just been the subject of discussion about the possibility of marrying into the M.O. family, followed closely behind him with a dark expression on her face. However, she seemed to be completely ignored by him, and he did not even spare her a glance. CEO M.O. and Shuyan followed closely behind M.O. Jingshin. Mrs. Mo's gown needs to be changed. I brought a spare set of clothes over. Let me help her change. There's no need. M.O. Jingshin's gaze was so cold that it could instantly freeze water into ice, and Shuyan's footsteps instantly froze. Her expression finally could not hold it in any longer. The guests in the banquet hall were shocked that M.O. Jingshin would actually be angered to such an extent for Jinwan. He did not even give Shuyan the slightest bit of face. The news that Shuyan was about to marry into the M.O. family was instantly destroyed by M.O. Jingshin. After making the call, Shenmu turned back to see M.O. Xiaoza approaching with a dark and cold expression. Director M.O. Shenmu respectfully nodded toward him. M.O. Xiaoza angrily said, "Since she fainted, just send her to the hospital. Why did you call Qin's sighting over at the hotel? Do you think the commotion here isn't big enough? Are you afraid that the guests won't be able to see enough?" Shenmu was silent for several seconds before seriously saying, "I'm sorry, Director M.O. I've always been by CEO Mo's side. I'm used to listening to his orders." M.O. Xiaoza coldly narrowed his eyes. Shenmu continued, "Right now, most of the doctors in the nearby hospitals have already left work. There are only emergency doctors and doctors on duty. Everyone in Haicheng knows about Dr. Qin's medical skills. CEO M.O. definitely has his own considerations for calling him over. Furthermore, the banquet hasn't ended yet. If CEO M.O. directly abandons all the guests and leaves, it might cause more people to feel uncomfortable." M.O. Xiaoza's expression was ugly as he stared at him. Shenmu did not wait for him to speak and politely and respectfully nodded toward him. "Dr. Qin has already driven over here. I'll wait for him at the door." You're tuning in to the Romance Rendezvous YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.